Let's start episode 201. This is part two of our Game of the Year Wars for 2023. I know it's 2024. I know that. We should be looking ahead. We should be thinking about the future, but we're going to instead pause and look back at 2023. Some people are calling it maybe one of the best years in gaming. That might be crazy talk, but it was very, very good. Maybe we do need at some point, like once the dust settles and we've all kind of gotten to go through the backlist a little bit, the backlog a little bit, maybe we do need to look and see where does this actually rank. It was a truly excellent year, though. So to me, it's worth taking all this time to recap. We do this every year where we debate some ranked categories for Game of the Year. That, of course, will include, here in about 2 weeks, it will include our favorite overall Game of the Year. But the idea here is for the four of us to debate, make our case for certain games to be on the list, where they should be ranked. But also, it's really just to celebrate. Week one, we were able to successfully, I think, not really, I don't think it got too heated. I don't think we really tore any games down. I don't think it got too negative. We kept it super P, right? Super
Not
positive.
too much blood was shed. Yeah. Not too much blood was
shed. And I think we survived that first week pretty well. The second week, I have a good feeling about this one too, just because of the categories. I think it's maybe the third week and definitely the fourth one where we might start to hear a little bit of like passive aggressive comments about something that one of us loves, and then and then it just starts to really hurt. You know,
it's inevitable. It is inevitable.
I think it
could happen this week, but I don't think so.
Sometimes I really like logging off and being like, "What the hell did he mean by that?"
Like just laying in bed. Like, what did he mean? What did he mean?
Yeah.
What does it mean?
What does it mean?
Yeah. So anyway, thank you guys for listening to this episode. If you're just listening on a podcast or if you're watching on YouTube, thanks for checking it out. So we'll jump in first with best story, and then we'll take a break. Oh, no, that was last week. Best small game, which is, we used to call it indie game, but that term has gotten so, I don't know, it's been debated and argued about. And instead of that, I'll explain what we mean by small game, and then we'll also rank our favorite combat, along with a few other smaller.
It's so interesting that the industry can argue about the same topic for years and years and years and years and never reach an actual conclusion or label. Or
I know. Yeah, so we're just calling it small game, and I think everyone kind of knows what you mean. But everyone knows what you mean when you say indie game too, like. But then some people will come in and they'll just actually you to death. They're like, well, actually, it's like, all right, okay, all right, you're right. Dave the Diver is not technically an indie game, but it is a small game, just in terms of scope and look and feel and indie vibes. That's kind of what we're going for. Mm-hmm. Anything that's kind of it's obviously non-AAA is what falls into this category. And the reason we're doing that is because this year it's hard to squeeze some of those games onto the overall list. It's just tough, even though there's some really excellent ones. So I want to give some other games a chance to shine a bit. So really quick recap of the rules. The game must be released, a new release from 2023. We will have a best new things and old games category next week, and that's going to include remasters, remakes, DLC, collections. We can rank all that. There's actually a bunch. As I kind of combined those, at first it was like just remasters and remakes, and there wasn't that many, so I thought, do we do a top 3 or top 5? And then when I said, well, hey, let's actually add in all the DLC and the collections. Well, now we've got a pretty robust list that's going to be a little challenging to rank. I think it'll be fun to do a top 10 next week for that. So, but every other category, including the ones this week, must be a new release from 2023. We'll start things out by just going through and moving things over to the first column of games we want to consider, we want to talk about. We'll narrow that down as much as we can until we can get it down to 10, and then we'll rank those. And just as a reminder, the tiebreaker, if for some reason we have trouble coming up with what that if it kind of feels like there's a little bit of a deadlock, we'll just do some math. We did that for one category last week where we just kind of ranked them. If we get to a like top 4 or top 7 even or whatever, we can't quite decide, we'll just rank them and assign points and go that way. If there's still a tie, we'll go with the open critic average and that kind of thing. Okay, so I think that's good. You guys get it. If you listened last week, you get the rules. So we'll just jump right in to
best. It is part 2. Don't start with the sequel, everybody.
Yeah, don't start with the sequel. Don't do that. Yeah. All right, so I will share my screen if I can find it. Okay,
unless that sequel is Red Dead Redemption 2. That's literally the only exception. They numbered it wrong.
John?
That's where you got to go find John. It's a little Stone Coldy.
That was a little
Stone Coldy. That's perfect.
I liked it.
What? Gotta go grab a beer with John Marston.
I liked it. All right, can you guys see my screen, the spreadsheet here?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good job, Skype.
It looks good.
Best small game, which I mean, you can throw in whatever qualifier you need for it to fit small game. We used to say non-AAA. That's a little vague as well because you'll have these AA games like Evil West from last year that you're like, well, what does that fall into? Is that a indie or small game? Like, well, maybe. So anyway, I'm considering them small games that clearly have a smaller budget or team, even if they're owned by a big publisher. You know, Ubisoft and EA have been known to publish some really cool indie vibe or small budget, small team games that I think they kind of make sense when you match them up against each other. What's weird is when you have a year where you're trying to argue something like Dead Cells against, what year did that come out? Like Red Dead Redemption 2. Like that's kind of a weird thing to try to figure out which game is. I think that was about 2018 games.
Like you're right.
So yeah, those are a little tough. So it's good to have a category where they can just really shine. So that's what this is for. So what we'll do, last week we kind of just went in order and each picked one, but instead I'm just going to start scrolling real slowly. I'm just going to look through the list and just shout them out. We're going to see if chaos works a little better than taking turns and forcing you to pick one. And then we'll just try to bring over stuff that we want. Hey, this is at least we want to give it a shout out or an honorable mention of some kind, right? So we'll start at the top and work our way down. I'm going to start by throwing AEW over because that
did my job for me. Thank you.
That game was
Thank you,
super fun. Yeah, that game was super fun.
I also wanted to shout out. I don't think I want to move these over. I don't know about Highland Song moving that. Okay, yeah, let's move it over. Why not?
Yeah, let's move it.
And 9 Years of Shadows. I had fun with that game. Don't move it over though. It's fun. But
it's got sevens. It's in the sevens.
That's about where it belongs.
9 Years of Shadows.
9 years of sevens.
It should be 7 Years of Shadows based on Paul. Just kidding. I'm gonna move over After Image. I only play a little bit of it, but it is really cool. It's worth shouting out a little bit. You know, we're not doing a most disappointed category unless someone decides to do that on their own. I might have my own little most disappointed list, but this would probably be on there. I think a lot of people were hoping this could be a little dark horse for
Atlas Fallen.
A solid game from a little studio, and it just, from all accounts, I never tried it because it sounded so bad. All accounts, it was really bad.
Yeah, I pulled a ripcord on that purchase, and usually I don't do that. Usually I'm pretty sure when I'm buying something, and this is one of those. And then I was just like, nope.
Yeah, I was like, well, I'm gonna save a little money, I guess.
Yeah.
I'm gonna move over Bang on Balls Chronicles, and I'm not kidding, you guys. I got to talk about that game at least for a second, even if it doesn't go. You got to hear. It's really interesting. I didn't get into Blasphemous 2.
I'm not played the first one either. Yeah,
I'm rarely in the mood to play those games.
It's good though, right?
It's good though. It's good for what it is.
At least deserves an honorable mention.
Yeah, it should be in the moved over just for that.
You should all feel shame for not playing Bomb Rush.
I know. I really want to play that game, but I'm not
so much money.
Yeah, it's got like this Jet Set Radio.
I don't think it's too expensive to be honest. I just personally don't want to spend that much money on it.
Yeah, that's totally.
Yeah, fair. I think it's like 40 or 30, and I'm still like, I don't know, bro.
Yeah. I think Bramble, the Mountain King, and Chance of Sonar both have to come, at least for consideration.
Those are great. Those are great.
Hey, I played Clash Artifacts of Chaos a little bit, and you look like a weird penis man, and it's hard to recommend that one.
That's a penis. Yeah,
it really looks like Penis Man. Like you go look at the screenshots of that game. Yeah,
just for that we should carry it over, right? Penis Man.
Yeah, it's not a great game. I didn't get super far, and I was like, I can't keep looking at this character. It's a third-person action adventure.
Mention.
So you keep looking at it. Honorable member.
I felt kind of flaccid about the game, so I didn't get it.
There we go. Here are the penis jokes. Here we go, guys. We're kicking them off now, everybody.
There
right
we
here.
Go.
Maybe if it were on a floppy disk, I'd play it.
Okay, all right.
I'm feeling pretty limp
something about the hard drive.
Oh,
Let's just keep going. Something about the hard drive. Let's keep going.
something, the boner drug. I don't know.
Queeners.
Like Michael Scott when he's trying to think of a joke, he's like,
He's when he has the list of like all the innuendos, and they're like, how does that even work there?
Yes, the sticky note of like,
yeah.
I'm bringing.
Don't put your mouth on that.
Over.
That's what she said.
Yeah.
Do you just have a list of these? So funny.
No.
You move Convergence over. Yes, I
moved Convergence over.
Definitely.
Curse of the Sea Rats was another disappointing one from gameplay perspective, at least, because it looked good. It looked really, but it just.
Crime O'Clock was stupid. I'll just say it. It was dumb.
That's fair. I'm bringing Dave the Diver over.
I hear so many people talk so highly about Darkest Dungeon 2, but none of us are playing it. So that's another whoopsie daisy.
That's another.
I really liked the first one. I played a good amount of the first one, just not the second one.
Yeah, I played like 60 hours of the first one. I never got around to this one for whatever reason.
Yeah.
One of our podcast listeners back in the day actually made like our whole podcast crew and others from the group in their Darkest Dungeon playthrough, like named us and everything.
Oh, that's always
really
fun. I like to
and
do
it
that
like
in these games,
added like depth to it as the characters died off. He was like, "Whoops, there goes Dan."
I don't even remember that happening. I died.
Because you're dead. Yeah, that's why.
Oh man.
Okay.
I liked not Move It Over liked it, but I liked Deliver Us from Mars. What I played of it. It is a little bit simplistic and I don't know. But it's okay. It's pretty good.
I didn't play the Double Dragon Gaiden game.
This is the first Double Dragon I've ever skipped, and I didn't mean to. I just didn't hear great things about it.
It was an accident, yeah.
I'm gonna bring over Dredge and El Paso Elsewhere.
Please,
good call.
Thank you.
We've talked about those. I can't remember if I played El Durand. It rings a bell though. Now I'm blanking out on what that game actually is.
Fate Samurai Remnant counts. Bring that bad boy over. Yeah.
Fate Samurai Remnant. Is that a small game?
I wouldn't say so, but if it's on here, I'll figure it over. It's a Koei Tecmo game, so like it'd be like calling a Muso game.
Is it? Does that kind of have indie vibes to it? Would you say?
Not at all. I would leave it. I would take it off. But this is a good chance for me to go. Hey, that game is really fun. Nah.
Okay. I remember you guys talking about that a couple months ago.
Fun. Yeah, it's a really fun game. But yeah, it would be like saying Warriors or Muso game is an indie game.
Fort Solis probably shouldn't be on here either, right? Isn't that like high production values, even though it didn't review well?
Yeah, great cast. And
I think you might be right about that, yeah.
I think that would also be considered a disappointment.
I think you're right.
As well.
Yeah, you're right.
Just with the pedigree and everything.
Okay, let's keep going here.
Goodball Volcano High guy. I know one of y'all played it.
I didn't play Goodbye Volcano High.
No, I did not. Get really defensive for no reason. No, I did not.
Come on, Jeff.
Guys, stop looking at me.
Guys.
I like Gunbrella a lot. Gunbrella over there.
I remember you saying that. Yeah.
Guilt was pretty good too, also, but like it was like okay. It was it was pretty good.
I've been calling that Jilt this entire time. So that's
all right.
funny.
Humanity. Well, at least talk about it because it is very good and reviewed really well. But
Have a Nice Death is quite good. I played it on PC last year though, so I don't know how that works.
Okay. Well, let's just leave it. I mean, we probably won't make our top 10 just because.
Yeah, screw it. Why not? All right.
Okay.
You liked was it Last Train Home that you talked about that came out December?
Like that that one's really cool. Okay, let's keep going here. Miasma Chronicles. Did any of you end up playing this one?
Miasma.
It's like on the wish list
right now. I think for like half off. But
I need an inhaler because miasma's acting up.
There we go.
Good one.
Stupid. Stupid. It was the worst. Nope. I'm done.
I played some Mr. Run and Jump. It's not great. Not worth highlighting. Hey, Jeff, you like Oxenfree too. Let's bring that one.
I did. Quite a bit.
And Planet of Lana. We'll move that.
Lana. Yeah.
Tramana. Let's see.
Quantum Error might be in the discussion for big disappointment too. Yeah.
People hate that game so much.
People were like, "Oh, cool, could be like another Dead Space," and then it was ass. Apparently.
We'll see Stars, guys.
Heck yeah.
Come on.
Yeah.
Heck yeah. Darn tootin'.
Did anyone actually play Scars Above? I felt like I was excited for that one.
I played the demo, and I did buy the game because the demo was so impressive, but I haven't touched it yet.
The reviews weren't like amazing, I guess.
No, it was in the high 60s, low 70s, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
Jeff, I'm right there with you. I played the demo as well. I was like, this is kind of fun. This could be good. And then it was on a really steep sale. I think it was a Thanksgiving sale where I bought it. And I had every intention to play it before these conversations for this purpose.
Yeah.
But I did not play it.
It's like Returnal kind of, right? Like the aesthetic, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Aesthetically, yes.
I'm thinking of the right one. Yeah, not gameplay wise, but aesthetic.
And kind of the loop of what you're doing, like dying and coming back and doing it again, stuff like that.
There's a thing there. Okay.
Slay the Princess, I would move that over for sure. It's like a 2-man team.
I hear so many good things about this.
It's quite good, but it is, it's got the limitations of being like a graphic novel. So
I'll leave Song of Nunu over here. There's other League of Legends games that are more deserving to come over.
I agree.
Or like Song of No, am I right?
Oh,
yep.
Yeah, you are right.
That's
you are
true,
right,
dude.
Yeah.
Dan, I lose track of which of these games you guys like. Did you like A Wonderful Life, the story of season?
I think that was a remake of an older one, so I didn't even play that one.
Okay.
Do you like the series though, Dan?
Yeah. No, the story.
Okay.
Yeah, because those are the actual Harvest Moons. If you
right, yeah, they lost like the ability to call them that or something. I forget what the
Talos Principle 2.
Talos Principle 2, baby. Straight Lights is pretty good. Not worth moving over, but pretty good.
The another one that I played just like the demo for or whatever. I don't know if it was a demo or what it was, but I remember playing it a little bit. I'm curious about it. I don't know enough about it to really fight for.
If
or
any of us,
same with Last Faith. I didn't play enough of it.
Also, if any of us were into what Stray Gods was offering as a role-playing musical, I feel like we'd be defending it a lot more. But there's
some people love it. Some people hate it.
Yeah, I'm not a fan.
Role-playing music.
It's straight up a musical, and it's like a Telltale type experience. It just wasn't for me. The music wasn't very good. Like I like the cast a lot, but I don't know.
That's important.
I mean, yeah, it's really important if you're going to call yourself a role-playing musical. Yeah.
I want to move over to Mage Seeker.
Yeah, Mage Seeker.
All right, this is a weird one because it's obviously by Square, a big old company with lots and lots of money. Theatrhythm Final Bar Line, but it does have elements of feeling indie, but I don't think that counts. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I was going to say, I would think it fits because it is a small project, small team.
That's true.
And that's what we defined as this category. So
yeah, that's fair.
We'll at least give it an honorable mention, even if we don't end up moving it in for that. Just because it's by a big company, maybe.
Spoilers! I love that game, and somehow Jeff loved it more. So
right?
Yeah,
that was one of my bigger surprises of the year. How much Jeff loved that and Octopath Traveler 2.
Every time I was like, I'm the big fan of this game. Jeff was like, I just spent another 10 hours in that game last night. I'm like, what?
What?
I love so much that Jeff loved it.
Yeah,
I think we should move over Thirsty Suitors, but it's not going to go much further because I played the demo and it's just really funny. Scott Pilgrim-y, it's really cool.
You said good things about that one.
Yeah.
I played some Tin Hearts. I recommend giving it a shot if you like Lemmings and Humanity, but Humanity is a better Lemmings-like, so I'll leave it here. I heard Tiny Thor is a good time. I just never tried it.
I prefer Big Thor.
I'm bringing over Trinity Fusion. That game is a blast.
Yeah. Trine
at the very least,
Trine 5. Yeah,
that game rules, dude. That game is so good.
Turbo Overkill.
Oh man, I still got to play that. I've heard so many people talk about that outside of this podcast too.
Yeah, Turbo Overkill's great.
Ugly's really good.
Only played the demo.
Yeah, that's all I played too, but it's really good. I mean, I guess we should just be like, hey guys, we mentioned it. Now get off.
We'll play Under the Waves probably when there's some sort of lull this year. I'll probably play Under the Waves and be like, hey, why didn't any of you tell me about this game? It's so good. That's probably.
I played like the first hour and I was just so glitchy at launch that I was like, I'll wait. And I think they've patched it since then.
That's good.
Valvirus looks like a game that Tenacious D would make. It's got like this pixelated heavy metal look to it. But I never played it.
Is this a sequel? Or I feel like I recognize that name. Okay.
Valvirus.
That's a Metroidvania, I think.
It is.
And
the one before that was, but I think this one's more like a shmup now, which is weird.
Oh, interesting. Yeah,
which I skipped.
Did they do that?
This one's a shoot 'em up.
Yeah, because I liked the other one because it kind of reminded me of like Contra a bit.
I've never heard it abbreviated to shmup. That completely.
People do that.
Shmup.
Yeah, shmup. Which
it's a kind of shmuppy, you know.
Hey, quit acting shmuppy over there, all right? Quit acting shmuppy. Hey. But I didn't like that jump to. I didn't care for that because I don't know.
I have Vernal Edge installed because it's got such good reviews. I played like a 5 minutes of it, and then I had to there was family stuff. I was like, all right, I'll log back in and play later, and I didn't. I logged back in and played something else. So I have a problem. I need to play the games that I've purchased. So I want to play it. It's reviewed so well, but I can't fight for or against it for that matter. But I've heard Vernal Edge.
This is the season of buying games and not playing them. So
it absolutely is,
man.
Dan got me to buy World of Final Fantasy because he pitched it so well, and I've yet to start it.
You're not
I'm just whatever.
I mean, maybe eventually, buddy. You got it on sale.
I'm excited, man. I'm
gonna bring over Wargroove 2 and Warhammer 40K Bolt Gun.
I didn't know you played Wargroove 2. I'm interested to hear about that one. Okay.
I did play some of that one.
I really like the first one a lot.
Witchfire deserves some attention, even though. I think it needs a lot of work and balancing before it's an excellent game, but it's really cool.
And Viewfinder, I think, deserves a mention at least.
Viewfinder, okay, yeah.
That's a really solid concept and executed really well.
Wizard with a Gun was fun.
That was fun.
Okay,
it's fun demo. That's all I got, though. I think I bought it too, and it's a problem, guys.
Worldless is interesting. It's got that. It's trying to be a little Ori-like. You're like this disembodied star that's running around,
celestial being.
Kind of cool. So I recommend giving Wizard with a Gun a shot, Worldless a shot, Vernal Edge. I just don't know that we can really discuss them in depth because we haven't really played them enough.
WrestleQuest, I think the demo I didn't really care for, and then the reviews were kind of okay that I don't think any of us bought it.
I think they've been improving it, so I have high hopes.
I've heard
that's
that too.
Going to be fun.
Yeah,
just not something that I'm digging at the moment. Okay,
that's a
so
shame.
that moves us over to 36. That's not bad, because some of these we were just giving a shout out anyway. So I don't think it's going to be too hard to keep some of them up.
Yeah, there's still some obvious front runners in here for sure.
Yeah, as we've done in the past, we'll kind of leave ones towards the top that we know are going to stay in consideration. So I think a Highland song is likely to stay there, right, Jeff?
I would move over others before that one and see where we're at.
Okay.
Personally, I don't know how you feel about the game, or
it's really pretty. It's very nice.
Yeah.
There's easily 10 games that I have.
Yes, same here. Same here, absolutely.
So if we're not going to fight for it, nobody.
Let's work with those. Let's work with that kid.
All right, I'm going to skip AEW for now because I feel like that one has a chance to make it somewhere on there, possibly. I mean, and if not, we'll talk about it a little more. I just want to quickly mention Bang on Balls Chronicles because I think it's going to stay over here.
I just love this title so much.
This is a real game. You guys will see a Let's Play that I record. It's like a 50-minute thing of the opening level up to through the first boss.
There's a boss in this kind of game. Wow.
It's so fun. I'm not kidding. It is an open world, like not fully destructive, but mostly destructive environment. You can open world go and explore. It's not massive, but you can go and explore. You have this dash attack that you do and you put on silly outfits. You're literally a little blob and you're bouncing around. Think like the Blob. Remember the paint games with the Blob?
Yep.
Think like that style of character and movement, but it's super colorful already. And it's a full-on 3D adventure platforming
so
game.
Wild.
It's so fun. It's so silly. It's not like this is not a 10 out of 10 game of the year, but it is certainly like why is this so fun? I've never heard of it. And why is it called this? But because it's a bunch of blobby balls that are literally banging against each other. That's exactly what's happening.
Question. What was the game with the penis man? Because we should just merge these two games together.
Chaos.
Oh yeah.
Chaos balls.
It'll make an absolute unit of a game, if you will.
So I'm gonna leave it over here just because I only played that opening section. But please go check out our YouTube channel. Let's Play for that. That'll come out next week. You'll be able to see that. Really funny, really fun little game too. And it's fun to support a smaller dev. As soon as I saw it and I watched some of their behind the scenes stuff and how their team's so excited and like seeing feedback, there was something about the small team that was so excited. I was like, all right, I'm gonna buy this game. But there was something about that just clicked with me. So
it's more endearing when they're enthusiastic because it's like, there's like one to like, small number of people making these games. It's just like, that's really nice. They're happy.
Yep.
Yeah. I like that.
It's very, very silly little game. They put balls in the title. That was very bold. And they did it.
Yeah. Bold.
They did it.
Bold.
Okay, what else do we think is likely to stay over here that we don't have to spend too much time?
To stay in this column. Okay. Yeah. I get what you're saying now.
Have a Nice Death probably staying over here.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. That game's cool looking though. It's got a great visual vibe.
Totally missed you moving Jusant over. Thank you for doing that. I totally missed that. That's good though that it's here. Yeah. Maybe Humanity. I don't think it's going to move over.
I don't think so. I just want to say this though. I think Humanity is creatively, I'm going to sound super pretentious for saying this. I think creatively it's a pretty bold game. They did a really cool job with this game. Like I think the visuals, the concept of it, and the music, it's all really like they're taking a big swing. And I think they did a good job. I think if you there's not a whole lot of people who think the game is just fine. There's a lot of people who love this game.
Yeah.
And I think it's great.
I loved what I played of it, but as soon as I hit a wall, I was like, I'm not doing this anymore.
It's a 3D Lemmings game where you have to direct these crowds of people through the levels, and it gets pretty complex pretty quick. But yeah, I don't think it's going to be on our top 10 for a small game either. Okay, let's keep going here. I think let's see what else is. Oh, SteamWorld Build won't stay over here. I just wanted to shout it out. Really fun little city builder. Reminds me a lot of the Anno series from Ubisoft. With the way that they have their world set up. Plus, I find the SteamWorld universe just endearing and nice.
Because I don't think any of us played it except for me for like an hour. Blasphemous 2.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't think that's going to move
Some
over.
folks love that combat though, right? People think that.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, it's for what it's doing. I think people love it for sure.
This is one I've always wanted. I've always wanted to check this series out, and I just for whatever reason, it's on sale all the time. That first one,
it is.
And I've just never pulled the trigger. Yeah,
and isn't that published by a bigger group?
I don't know. I don't know anything about that.
So like that's where I could be wrong, but anyway, regardless, there's something with the indie title that people get all thrown off by. But this is a perfect game for this.
People that you mentioned Humanity, people that played it love it. It's the same thing for this game. Like the feelings are identical. Yeah.
Agreed.
You're not going to find anybody
going. They love their souls.
It's okay.
Yeah, like their Souls games. So.
They do indeed. Okay.
Thirsty Suitors you can keep on the consideration column. We are not moving that over. I just think that game was way better than I thought it would be.
But it's a little bit about like, isn't it like your love interest battling it out, sort of?
Yeah. You're you break up with somebody and you move back home, and everybody that sees you, well, not everybody, but all of your like former lovers and stuff like that, or potential suitors, I guess, are all vying for your attention, and you're fighting against each other.
So Scott
it's a horny RPG, right?
Yeah, it's Scott Pilgrim basically. Your conversations turn into turn-based fights, and they're very funny. They're very.
It's a horny RPG, right? Isn't that basically?
Not really.
It's not a horny RPG.
Well, I mean, I guess there's some horniness to it because sometimes the people you're fighting are more thirsty than you. Thirsty.
It says thirsty, so there's got to be some element of horniness to it
thirsty.
Somewhere in there. I don't know that Ugly will make it. It's a cool concept, but I don't think we played it enough. But really interesting concept. It reminds me a lot of Braid.
I love the artwork on that one too.
Yeah, the artwork and the gameplay style reminds me of Braid. So if you guys haven't, make sure you check out Braid when that remaster comes out this spring too. Okay, so we took care of that one. I mean, I'll wait till Kyle comes back. We'll talk about what we think about the Square game. I'm gonna move Teardown up and leave it here. But Teardown is a very cool destruction simulator. It's got that weird combination of pixelated Minecraft graphics and yet still super realistic physics and lighting at times. Like, it's really, really interesting visual combo they have there. And it's just fun to literally tear things down. So that game is a good time. And it's on PlayStation Plus if you've got.
I would keep Viewfinder over here. I was just moving it over to mention it.
Yeah. I only played the demo. So
yeah, I just played the demo too. And then of course, like Humanity, if it got too difficult, I just bailed. And that happened pretty quickly for me. Like just conceptually though, like the artwork and all that stuff, like they just much like Humanity.
The idea of like taking a picture and then like moving to a new spot in the level, placing the picture there, and now you can walk into it and it's create a new platform and a new path and all that. Very interesting.
So insane. I can't believe that's where we are with indie games of all things. You know?
Yeah, that was some kind of crazy engine at work.
Yeah.
For that one. Okay, so Shadow Gambit is likely to stay here. Really cool little pirate game. I highly recommend it. It's like a strategy stealth combination. They put great work into it. Last week, if you listened to that episode, we talked about the music. The music in that game is stellar. So give Shadow Gambit a look if you like strategy.
I have the demo downloaded. It's a massive file too. Let me tell you, it's like 30-some gigs. Yeah.
I think with all the music and the voice work and some of the visuals, like it's actually surprisingly.
Oh, is it fully voice acted?
Not fully, but yes, there's elements of it that are.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's one of those things
cool,
where like
I didn't
hear
expect
some
that.
voice acting and then it'll just be a bunch of written text for a while.
Oh, I see.
Okay. Let's see, what else do we have that we can keep here? I'm gonna leave Witchfire here. So Witchfire is a super cool game by the folks who made The Vanishing of Ethan Carter. Really cool visuals, great concept, but boy, that game is tough. I think it needs some balancing and some work still. It is technically an early access on Epic Games.
I was going to say, is this still an early access? Or?
It is, and
it's only PC. Like, obviously, it's only PC. Okay,
it's only PC. I think this game has a lot of potential and could be something that we talk about down the road. Of like, man, they really have.
I think you and I share a lot of enthusiasm for this game, but like I don't have a PC that can run this well enough. So I do hope, like you do, like that this game shapes up, as it.
I think it will.
Reaches full launch,
Yeah, I think it will. So that's cool.
I think I just checked my own personal top 10 for this category, and I didn't realize I didn't have it in there. But Trine 5 will stay here because I didn't put it in my 10, and I'm the one that liked it the most, and I did like this game a lot.
But some of the best like co-op, side-scrolling, magic, action puzzles. It's so fun.
Yeah, and I like the cartoon art style. It's kind of like cartoony. And everybody's powers are super fun to use. So such a cool game.
Okay, so that's good. We've trimmed it down quite a bit. Good so far.
I'm proud of us. We did it, guys. We're done. We're done.
We're totally done.
Next week.
Yeah, there's not like 20 games we still have to narrow down. All right, so now that we've got them all on one screen, let's start to throw out ones that we think definitely need to be on here. And it's kind of the thing we've done before where we might end up moving over like 13 and then kick a few back off. But like, Dan, what's one that you think we should have over there for sure, Dan?
So, fun fact.
Please say the one I want you to say.
I'm contributing literally nothing overall because I only played one game in this entire thing.
Oh man, I'm with you. I have like
gamer? What is
I have like 5 games I played from this, so I'll be leaning on everybody else
good.
really hard. So
5's pretty good, but
5's okay. It's not great.
Yeah.
Sea of Stars.
We had like 40 games. We had 40 games on this consideration list at first, and I played 5, so it's bad.
I basically played barely any small games this year. Apparently,
I feel like the 2 boat. I feel like the 2 boat games got to come over, right?
Embarrassing.
So I will say this: all these, well, to a certain extent, because I haven't played all of them, but many of these, I'm like, even though they're not in our top 10, I recommend giving them a look. Like they are really fun, really silly. They're a good time. I agree, Kyle, that Dredge should certainly come over.
What was that's the other boat? Oh, you're talking Dave the Diver?
Yeah. The Diver's going to be over here.
Cocoon has to be in here for sure.
Cocoon's got to be over here.
Absolutely. Yeah. Planet of Lana, we fought for that pretty hard.
I like Bramble a lot, guys, and it sounds like y'all two did as well. So I feel like
I did too. I'm glad you played that, man.
I wish I'd beaten it, but like I played quite a bit of it, and I like it quite a bit.
It's so good. Now, as an overall video game, I think Bramble is far superior to Planet of Lana. Personally,
okay, that's fair. So, Convergence is even better than Planet of Lana.
But y'all like Planet of Lana. I feel like that got brought up a lot. So I mean, like, is that not?
I love the music for it, and it's a sweet story. But there are times of the gameplay that I was like, all right, just give me the next little section. Like, it's not bad. It's not bad.
Yeah.
Can we move on, please? Can we move on?
I don't know. I'm the only one that's going to be vouching for it, but Talos Principle 2 would be a weird list without it.
I feel like you got to bring it over. Yeah. I feel like I feel like everybody's talking about how good this game is.
Dan's not going to fight you on it.
It's so incredible.
What's that?
For Talos Principle 2, I mean, just because he hasn't played any of these except for the one.
Right, except for the Steve.
Stars.
I do think I'm going to just grab 3 that I think need to at least be considered. The Mage Seeker, I think, needs to be considered. I think Turbo Overkill, which might be a tough one because I might be the only one who's played it.
Yeah, I think
Bolt Gun for sure.
And Bolt Gun.
Bolt Gun, absolutely. Yeah, I love that game.
Those 3, I think, need to be at least considered. I don't know if there's going to be room for them because I think we also need to bring over maybe 1 or 2 or 3 of these others. What do we think? Let's talk about Theater and Final Bar Line real quick. It certainly fits the small budget / team or indie vibes definition. So I don't want to hold it against it just because it happens to be centered around music from one of the biggest franchises. It's not.
It does feel kind of icky though, doesn't it?
It's a little weird because of that, but it's not one of those games. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So I could go either way.
I do feel like there's some stink on it to bring it over to a final 10, but like I'm also like a huge fan of this game.
Yeah, me too. So I'm like, either way, I'm kind of like okay with it.
Yeah. If we bring it over, like I'd be really cheering.
Let's see if there's space. Let's hang it out down here.
Okay.
Let's see if there's some space. I'm gonna leave Wargroove 2 here because I'm the only one who's played it. But I will tell you this: if you played the first one, it's a lot more and better version of that. So it's really, really good. So think like everyone compares it to Fire Emblem, but it's much more like Advance Wars in terms of the gameplay.
I can see that.
Where you've got, so it's really good. Though. I think it's great. It's a lot of fun. It's a very very light-hearted fantasy story compared to stuff like Fire Emblem, which is usually a little bit more serious. Like everyone's a lot more serious in those stories. Wargroove 2 is a little bit more Saturday morning cartoony, not silly, but like it's just not as serious. So anyway, very good though. I thought Wargroove 2 was great. I think Jusant deserves at least a shot to stay over here.
Sure.
I maybe not. I don't know. What do you think, Jeff? Yes? No? Maybe? Jusant?
That's really tough for me.
You're the only only other one besides me.
I won't be fighting for it to be in a top 10. I really like the game though, but
trying to see where I have it ranked. Let me double check. I don't think I have it high.
Like I have Slay the Princess pretty high above what's left over here.
Yeah, we need to start. Okay. We need to start moving Darlings over next if there's anything left over. But
we already moved one over for me. We already moved over.
El Paso Elsewhere, I just want to say, is a very fun game and very unique, but like it is not a. game that you should drag over for sure, but it is really something.
I agree.
Very silly game.
If you got a nostalgia for the early Max Payne game, please play this game.
Yeah,
I don't have Juice on my top 10. It's right outside it. So
yeah, mine's outside it too. Yeah,
it's really good though. It's a really clever little game. Very, very pretty. Where do I have Planet of Lana? I've got that one.
Lana Planet.
I mean, that is barely. It's at number 10, so it's not
Captain Planet.
Actually, it turns out Planet of Lana is outside my 10 too. So you and I are the games I would consider biggest defender, and
it's gonna stay over here.
It's gonna stay over here. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Like I'd rather see us make people mad with Theatre than Final Barline being on there than trying to. Because I think when it comes to storytelling and pretty music, Bramble kind of does similar things in some way and does it much better in my opinion. Even though Planet of Lana I do think is good. Okay, Chance of Sinar is cool. It has some cool concepts with like the symbols and like you're kind of deciphering a language without really having any hints outside of like, oh, that word does this, that must mean gate or something. So like it's a cool system. I just didn't play it enough to fight for it, but it is cool.
Yeah, I played it for like 2 hours, and it's not like it's a long game or anything. I got to a lot of sections. I was very surprised at how far I was able to go. Yeah. So it's not like the puzzles are like so crazy difficult, and there are some stealth elements to it as well, sneaking and stuff.
Right.
Yeah, the game is offers a lot more than I thought it would on its surface, but it's it's not my 10 or anything. It's just a good game, you know.
All right. So let's talk real quick about El Paso Elsewhere. I know that Kyle and Jeff were the main two who played this one. Now, last week we all jammed out to the music because that music is sweet.
Yeah, really good. I thought we already moved it up. I thought Kyle
we already moved
stay
it
in
up.
Here. Oh, we did. Okay.
Yeah, we moved it off.
But yeah, that music is dope. Go watch the short on that. We put a short up. Go watch it. It's a short.
It's very short.
It's
trying to affect
guys.
the algorithm. Does it work?
Yeah. YouTube short YouTube.
Short YouTube. El Paso Elsewhere.
I'm going to leave Last Train Home over here, but hey, it's a really cool story. And if you liked those, what's that strategy game where you're doing a lot of stealth? You have a little unit of soldiers in World War II that I want to say Commandos, but I don't think that's right.
Band of Brothers? Oh, not Band of Brothers. Brothers in Arms?
Brothers in Arms is one of those, right? That's a third person kind of like staying with your unit, right? Where you're directing them.
I can't remember. Or Company of Heroes? Is that?
That's the one I'm thinking of.
That's
Company
what
of
I was
Heroes.
trying to get to, but yeah, I had to name 3 wrong things first.
It's kind of like that, but set. You're this special troop. I already talked about it before, but you're this troop trying to get home, obviously, but you're going through. Maybe it's before World War I. You're going through currently dealing with Civil War Russia, and you're not trying to get involved with either side. You're just these legionnaires trying to get through, and of course, you get pulled into the fight in various ways. So it's just a cool setup. It's made by folks from that area too, so like it's their history, so you can tell they're telling it with care. So I like that. I do recommend it, but it's gonna stay over here. I feel the same about After Image. I played it for a little bit. It's another one that's on our channel if you want to see some gameplay from that. Very cool little game, but because the combat, I've played so many games that are side-scrolling action platformers that have great combat, and this has good combat. But one of the biggest detriments is that when you dodge, you don't actually like dodge through enemies. As soon as you come in contact with them, even mid-dodge, it knocks you back. So like that might not sound like a big deal, but once you realize all you can do is dodge backwards away from enemies and then try to get back in for a hit, it actually makes the combat feel super not smooth and not very fun. So that's the knock on it. I don't need it to be over here. So I'm going to leave it. I'm going to leave it in the consideration column. So now we're down to AEW, Gunbrella, Oxenfree 2. I've got a bunch of Jeff games over here. Slay the Princess.
Me too.
This is just the Jeff category.
And then we've got Trinity Fusion, which I think that's excellent. That was my favorite Swimming in Sevens game of the year. I think it's really, really good. I need to play it more because I'm still pretty early in the game.
I am,
but
too.
I do think it's pretty great.
Yeah, I think
does it need to be on our shared top 10? Not necessarily. We've got enough over here, I think, probably to argue through. So I'm okay with it staying, but I do like it a lot.
Yeah, I like it a lot too, but I would argue for it more if I just played it more. That's probably all it is.
I think so too. Yeah, I'm looking over here and we've already got 11. And so anything else we move over is going to be trying to fight to kick something out. Like, for example, you could make an argument that we should only keep Turbo Overkill or Bolt Gun. Very similar in terms of super fast-paced, ultra-bloody, pixelated first-person shooters. They're very different from each other, but they still have that same vibe.
Mm.
So maybe we only keep bolt gun since we haven't all played Turbo Overkill. So there might be space if we want to move one more thing over. So Jeff, I'll throw it to you for these 4: AEW, Gumbrella, Oxenfree 2, and Slay the Princess.
What
do you think? Which one do you want to fight for?
Surprise everybody that knows I'm a wrestling fan that Fight Forever is not in my 10 for this list. Because I don't think it's I named it for the Swimming in Sevens category, I think, last week. It's just like sometimes there's just so many glitches that are just stupid. That it's hard for me to logically put it in a 10 celebrating the best of a given category, unless it's like the best 6 out of 10 game experience, because it certainly delivers that. It gives me everything I want in terms of like a simplified wrestling game, arcadey sim type of wrestling game. The story is very silly. It's clearly Yakuza inspired, like in terms of like some of the things that they have you doing, and it's very, very silly. It's not gonna
stay here.
Yeah, it's gonna stay here. It's not a 10 contender for me.
Okay. Did you play enough of Gumbrella? I mean, I played it a little bit and thought, oh, this is cool, but I can't fight for it.
Yeah, I played like an hour or so, so it's not much more than you at all. It's really cool, though. The platforming feels way better than I thought it would for being a game where it's like your main method of going up and down is the umbrella. I didn't think that would work at all, but it really does.
Yeah, the way it works with the dash is really fun. They did
it's so cool. And at later levels, I watched some Let's Plays of it, and like later levels are just insane. Like just a lot of button mashing, precision timing. Like it,
Was that
it looks
just
very
PC,
difficult.
or?
I don't know.
Gunbrella, I feel like it's on Switch.
Okay, yeah, I remember seeing it and thinking it looked super.
It is a Devolver game, right? They published it.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
Right.
It feels like a Devolver.
I feel like it's on Switch, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, Switch. So Switch and PC.
Okay. Oh, nice, good. I'm glad they got it on a console somewhere.
It's definitely a good Switch type game for sure. Okay, and as we look at these other two, Slay the Princess and Oxenfree 2, and just revisiting we've moved over. I feel like these 7 are definitely in there somewhere. I could be wrong on that. I don't know if Mage Seeker is definitely in the top 10, but I might end up liking it more than Convergence once I actually finish it. I don't know. I do like it a lot. And then
I have both of the League of Legends stories in my 10. For sure.
I do too. I have Convergence a little higher than it right now. I've just played a lot more of it than Mage Seeker.
Slay the Princess, it's just another victim of not playing the story more. I would fight for it more, but like, and it certainly deserves to be fought for. If we had all played it, even though it's like it's a visual, what do you call those things? Is it visual novel games or
visual
whatever?
novel?
Yes.
Even though it is that, there's something very, very accessible about like the dialogue, and like there's voice acting in it. It's fully voice acted by just 2 people, which makes it even more impressive because it's just people disguising their voices in different ways. It's like just incredibly well written, and it's got such a cool premise. I mean, I'm sure we would have fought for it more if any more of us played it, and played it plenty more than just like an hour or however long I played it. Yeah, I love Oxenfree 2, man. I don't know about.
Let's see if we find this spot for it over here.
It's definitely like I said last week. If you liked the first one, this is an improved version of that. Like how open the map is, and there's even some timey-wimey stuff going on that's really, really cool. And the way that they tie it into the first one with these seemingly disconnected, unrelated characters, it's super good. It's super good. Yeah.
Okay, well then we'll have to figure out if there's a spot for that one. 2 that I have in my list that I don't need us to include, but weren't on here for whatever reason. I think I've made this list and didn't really update it. There were other games that kind of slipped through the cracks, but I at least want to mention them as honorable mentions. Death Must Die. Super fun.
Yeah, great game.
It's a Kyle, what do they call it on GameScoop? Garlic-like?
A garlic-like, yeah.
Yeah, where it's kind of like the Vampire Survivors style game where you are upgrading and you have swarms of enemies coming in as you just have moves spinning around all like your attacks and your magic and everything just flying around the screen.
I know, it's so funny that the creator of Robotron's probably sitting there going, why wouldn't they call it a Robotron like, since he's kind of like invented this whole genre. But
like, who are you? Get out of here.
80s. Yeah.
This
vampire guy comes in, suddenly we're naming everything after him.
In that same vein, 20 Minutes Till Dawn deserves a shout out. It's also another garlic-like Listen, I know that sometimes like a genre will hit, an out of nowhere indie will become super popular, and then a lot of other little dev teams will try to make similar versions of it. That's happening. We're seeing a lot of those, and some of them aren't great, but those two are really good, and I recommend them. Death Must Die. And
I agree. I played them both on your recommendation.
Yeah. They're both a good time, but they're just getting honorable mentions for this list. Okay, so we've got let's see, 12. That's not too bad. We can narrow this down. I think it's safe to say these 7 are going to be on the list somewhere: Convergence, Bramble Cocoon, Day the Diver, Dredge, Sea of Stars, Talos Principle 2. Is Talos Principle 2 like your top one, Jeff? Like, is that the one you're like, this needs to be in here somewhere?
Yeah, right? It's in my top 3.
Okay, all right.
Of the ones that we have over there. Mm-hmm.
Am I the only one who's played Turbo Overkill?
Yeah. I've only seen gameplay of it, and so like basically I've only played the bolt gun version of that type of game, which is they're both kind of similar, but yeah.
I think that'll make things a little simpler. I'll move Turbo Overkill back off into honorable mentions, but I will say this. It might even be a better overall game than Bolt Gun, except for the fact that Bolt Gun has a great IP. Warhammer 40K is just so intriguing, and the IP is awesome, and the characters in the world and all that stuff. Turbo Overkill is a brand. It's a cyberpunk setting, which is fun, and you have chainsaws in your legs. That way, when you go sliding towards enemies,
chains in your legs.
What? On your leg. So it's super fun, but yeah, we'll move that one over.
Chainsaw. What?
So that leaves us with one we have to get rid of. Between Mage Seeker, Bolt Gun, Oxen,
and depending on how our feelings on Theater Rhythm,
Final Bar.
Yeah. I see the logic in keeping it here. Like, it does feel like a really, really small game by a really obviously well-known studio.
I mean, you could turn this into a mobile game. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
it's
a 2-button, like affair type of situation. So,
yep.
Yeah. It really is. It's true.
Very minimalist.
Yep.
It's just the fact that the music has been in like huge games.
It's just anything like putting Final Fantasy on any list called small is just
I know.
Yeah,
it's icky. There's an ickiness to it.
Yeah.
But it would give Dan a second game that he can talk about on the list.
Well, I mean, not really, because I barely played it. So
jeez, Dan.
All right, even a Final Fantasy fan? I don't
Dan
even
didn't play it. It's going back over here.
Jeff, name 10 songs for me, Jeff.
I don't know song titles. I know that I played the entire game. I played the entire game on 2 difficulties.
Jeff, I don't need to play this game. I know all of the songs. Okay.
He's like, I live the songs, Jeff. I live them.
Not a fan if you do.
Hey, listen,
games.
I played the demo.
Agreed.
I didn't feel I didn't like the gameplay because I liked. For me, I had explained it before. I liked the way that it worked on the DS because of the stylus, and it felt tactile, and it made sense to me.
Yes.
Yeah.
I do remember you talking about this early on before any of the rest of us played it. And you were kind of like, but I remember that you were like, it's not really my thing. And then the other 3 of us played it, and we were like, I love this. This is so
I know.
And you were like,
I love that because like when you go on the message boards, everyone who says, how do I get better at this game when it was on DS, everyone was like, stop using the stylus. So it's just funny to me that that's like your hang up, because like everybody doesn't use the stylus even on the DS.
I mean, yeah, that's fun. That's funny to me.
I get it though, because there is a tactile nature to it. It makes it unique, and it does feel good. Yeah.
What was that other kind of rhythm-based Square game? They made a sequel to it. I don't think it sold super well. The World Ends with You.
The World Ends with You.
Was that rhythm based at all? Didn't it have some rhythm element, like tapping on the screen, like for attacks or something? I feel like it had
something like that. Yeah, I just remember everyone saying that was the best game ever when I bought it for DS. I go, I don't get this. So, and I mean the combat specifically. So I couldn't even remind you. I think the sequel's a little more like actiony, if I'm not mistaken. But
I didn't play either one.
Yeah, I think World Ends with You was like at least a tappy or a rhythm type game. So
it's very anime. Very anime.
Very anime. Yeah.
All right, guys. So what's
the whole vibe of that game too?
What's our gut feeling on keeping a Theater Rhythm Final Bar line in here, especially if it means we're getting rid of, like, do we need just one League of Legends story? Is it weird to have both? Listen, they're very different games. If they didn't have the LOL tag on it, I would not think these were in the same universe whatsoever. I would have.
Right.
They're very different.
Feel very different. Yeah.
They don't look or play similarly. There's not like, at least as far as I've gotten in the games, there's not overlapping stories or characters that are overt. At least
it feels like Mage Seeker takes place a long time ago for some reason. That's just what in my head canon. And Convergence is more like right now in the Arcane time, even though it's younger Echo or whatever.
Well, I'm curious. the question I pose is, so if we're feeling kind of like unsure or icky or whatever, about Theater Rhythm, is there anything that is, quote unquote, traditionally indie that really should be on here and be acknowledged more so than?
I would say all of these that are currently on here.
Yeah.
Yeah, we need to give that small little IP League of Legends a tap hit. No one's
You're right.
ever heard of it before.
You're so right. Same with like Warhammer 40K. It's like
same. Yeah. These small little IPs, no one's ever heard of. Yeah.
I was more so referring to anything on the left that you guys were like, well, like let's acknowledge this, but like, does anything on there actually deserve to really actually supersede Theater Rhythm because it is more traditionally a smaller, quote unquote indie game?
Good question.
Unless we're okay with Theater Rhythm being on there. I mean,
but we still have more than 10 over here. So, you know what I mean? So I don't know if we need to be looking at the other list if there's still like.
I don't think.
Yeah, if we removed Theater Rhythm, we would have 10.
Yeah. So. Yeah, I don't know.
That was a question on top of the fact that you guys are talking about there being 2 League of Legends games too. So.
Yeah, that's true as well. Yeah.
I don't really care about there being 2 of the same franchise as long as the games are both good, and I think they both really are.
I think
a different kind
of
good.
Different enough,
Yeah, they're very different.
I haven't played either, so this is, y'all, y'all are gonna be beating the drum on that one.
Yeah, I feel pretty good about Mage Seeker being on the list if it's possible, and I really want Bolt Gun. Like if we don't have Turbo Overkill, we gotta have Bolt Gun just to kind of give that.
Yeah, I honestly thought Bolt Gun
feels so good. To be
honest, I think that's got to be on here. So that's 8. So it kind of comes down to these 3. My gut tells me, all right, Theater Rhythm, we're going to give it like hey, this is number 11 on our top 10. And we do consider it a small game, but maybe it's not in our top 10. I don't know. Kyle and Jeff, where would you rank this one out of all these?
Number 1. but again, I'm also self-admitting that it does feel kind of icky, but then I get in my head about but we're celebrating 2 League of Legends games, which are gigantic, huge IPs also, and huge IPs. Where are we, drawing the line and what big and small is, and yada yada.
Theater Rhythm is number 2 for me, so you're not gonna hear me. You're not gonna hear me be like, get that crap out of here. It's
all right.
Trash.
So then what gets kicked out? I mean, Jeff, you've played.
I Oxenfree 2 barely made the cut. I really like that game, but it's my number 10. So.
All right.
Yeah.
And I think there's our 10. Not in the order, but that's 10 that we're going to be ranking. Now, Theater Rhythm's going to be at number 10. I think that's safe to say.
I think that's I think that's fair.
So that'll be at number 10.
You snuck on.
You snuck in there.
You got Trojan Horse stand, but you're going to 10. Yeah.
Super fun rhythm-based game with some of the best music in video game history. And they just do a great job with all the fan service. If you're even just a casual Final Fantasy fan, even if you're not, I think it's a fun rhythm game, and I think you'll have a good time.
There's enough there too to there's more than just there's the meta game going on too with leveling up your characters and equipping them with gear and and even though it ultimately doesn't really mean much, it just I don't know, it adds kind of a meta game that makes it feel
unlocking new songs and new games and all that
helps
kind of
you get
stuff.
a higher score. A lot of it helps you get a little higher score, but only by a little bit. Yeah. But if you add up that little bit and you're stacking great gear and stuff, it matters, especially when on a higher difficulty. Yeah, I don't even care for the songs. I'm just here for the gameplay. No, imagine if I meant that.
Yeah.
Sure.
I don't know, man. The songs are okay. The gameplay though, of pressing a button and maybe
I actually play the game on mute. I listen to a podcast and I just hit the buttons,
No, the music is it was for me. It was certainly an educational experience because I didn't, going through from the very beginning. I started with Final Fantasy 1. I started at the very beginning and hearing how that suite of music has evolved. All in one game.
That's so interesting.
It's just
playing it in order, you would have seen the progression of chip tune to 16-bit music to PS1 era, yada yada, all the way to full.
And you'd think one game would be I don't know if I like the music that much, but no, I hadn't zero criticisms at all.
Oh, it's perfect. My bad.
I mean, they're perfection. Entire pretty much the entire series musically is.
Yeah, Dan's really speaking some truths here. It's it's some perfect music for sure.
All right, Uematsu, kind of talented.
Yeah, you know what? He's kind of okay at what he does.
I guess he's pretty good. He's pretty good.
Should we leave one of the League of Legends games at 9 then, since we were debating whether or not to put him in there?
I think that's fair.
I think Mage Seeker's probably at 9.
Yeah, I feel much more stronger about how much I love Convergence.
Yeah, same here.
But they're only like 3 spaces apart on my list, so
yeah, I think Convergence is a better game.
Far.
But that's also I just spent more time with it.
Yeah, same here.
I think it's safe to say we're gonna have a few that are living towards the top. I think things like Sea of Stars and Dave the Diver.
Dredge,
I don't know what. Yeah, it's Dredge. I don't know who else has played and loved it. Oh, you do, Kyle.
I played a few hours of that game. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So those are certainly in the top 5.
I hope Cocoon is, but that's just
Cocoon was so good too.
Oh
so maybe okay. So now that we're naming
so much,
now that we're naming a few, maybe Talos Principle and Bramble belong in the bottom 5 somewhere.
Yeah, only because of lack of numbers.
So they're somewhere in these ranges. I just don't know exactly where yet. Okay, but they're somewhere in the bottom half. Okay.
Well, I think Bolt Gun might be 2 then. Maybe 5 or 6. I don't know.
Yeah, Bolt Gun's awesome. So I think you're right. It's right somewhere in the middle here.
Or actually, it might be Bramble, Bolt Gun, then Talos. Just because I'm the only one that loves the crap out of Talos Principle.
So that one
I mean, you guys understand the praise, but you haven't played it yet.
Right.
Yeah.
Kyle, look at these two, Bramble and Warhammer, Bolt Gun. You've played both of these a bit. Which one kind of hit you more? They're such different games. It's hard to compare.
Yeah. Wow. I would
Bolt
say
Gun's
Bramble,
like this heavy metal, let me shoot.
Bramble doesn't rely on any sort of IP except for Nordic folklore. So it's I don't know. I feel like that had the harder line to toe, in terms of making an impression. And I would just want to say that game made an impression immediately. It just felt kind of like Brothers or Tale of Two Sons, or something along those lines of just kind of like a walky, moody type of game. And I really like that game a lot.
Yeah, I've got Bramble at number 4. It really got me. So I have it above Convergence, actually.
I have it at 7, apparently. I guess I hated it. No, I just had Talos Principle higher and Theater Rhythm higher, of course. So that.
Do you have Convergence higher than that one?
I did, yeah.
Okay. So I think it's safe to put Bolt Gun at number 7 for now. And then, so now we're looking at, it's probably.
I also had Dave the Diver higher, 1 slot higher than Bramble. So I totally get putting that really high. Totally get it.
So I think, and so Jeff, let's talk about Cocoon real quick. I mean, we did talk about how cool this game was. It doesn't hold your hand at all. It doesn't even talk to you at all. This game has there's no dialogue written or spoken at all in this game, unless I'm forgetting something.
No, you're right.
It just throws you in, and you're this weird little bug man who can warp through these worlds, and then over time it becomes super complex, and you're kind of within a world within a world within a world, but you can kind of also teleport back to that top world.
Yeah.
It gets real trippy. It's very, very smart.
You're doing such complex puzzle solving that you don't even know you're doing it until you pause to think about what you're doing, and then you're like, no, now I'm lost and overwhelmed. No.
Yeah.
So
you're
that
I have to get the red
end.
orb over there. So if I go and set it inside the green universe,
Yeah.
and then come out of the green universe and carry the green orb around, then that moves both of them with me. It's trippy.
Gosh. Yeah, it is. But the moment you try to explain it or think about it, it's like, I don't understand what I'm doing.
Even saying it sounds so stupid.
Yeah. It's like a game that I don't know. It makes the gamer inherently smarter because you're just following along with your controller like no big deal. But the minute you try to think about it or explain it, it's so complex.
I agree.
What you're doing. God dang, that game is so freaking intelligent.
It's so good. I have it essentially in a tie with Convergence, and they're both just below Bramble. But the more we're talking about it, the more I'm like, I don't know, maybe it deserves to be just above those two. But I kind of have these. I do have these 3 grouped together personally.
Gotcha.
I
have Cocoon at 4.
Maybe it's just above Bramble.
It's just above Convergence for me, and Bramble.
Yeah. And then I don't want to pretend like these 3 are just automatic top 3. They might not be. One of the other ones could come above them. I just get the vibe that Sea of Stars and Dave the Diver are going to be fighting for 1 and 2.
Yeah.
At the top.
A fighting the sea of stars.
Yeah, they will. They
technically
will. Yes.
I've got them at my 1 and 2, and it's very close. I didn't even get a third of the way through Sea of Stars, and I love that game.
And that's so cool to hear.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
I'm rooting hard for that game. If it takes 1 or 2, that's where it probably belongs. So
I personally have Dredge over these other 3, and here's all I'll say about it, because I think it's going to end up at 3 or 4 maybe. I have it above those because I do think it has a really creative world, and it somehow makes the idea of fishing and mixes this weird like seafaring horror story lore sort of in with fishing and exploring. And the nighttime is creepy. If you've ever played any kind of survival game where nighttime is gonna like whether it's Dying Light or Valheim or whatever, where nighttime is scarier and more dangerous. Dredge does a great job with that, and they make you start panicking if you're out at night for too long. So I think they do a brilliant job of that. Great upgrade system. I don't know. Dredge just. I played the demo and thought, this is okay. And then I got the real game and played it, and I was like, oh no, I love this. So I have it above these three. And Kyle, I know you at least played Bramble of these three. Do you prefer Dredge over?
Oh yeah.
That?
Yeah,
okay.
I think Dredge is just excellent. Yeah.
So it's likely at the top of this group of 4, I think. I could be wrong. Jeff, what do you think? Do you think Cocoon deserves to be above it, or Bramble even?
I do. I don't even have Dredge on my 10. It just I played like an hour of it, and I just wasn't vibing with it at the time.
You think the puzzles of Cocoon and like the design there just bumps?
Yeah, something about that game, I couldn't put it down the minute I started it. I played it for like 3 hours straight, and then I got stumped at one part, and I was like, okay, I'll come back to this. But like the fact that I couldn't put it down like immediately. It's not that it's a long game or anything. It's 4 hours, so it's not like I was so far from the ending. But with, I don't know, something about the pacing of Dredge and like as soon as you say fishing, I immediately want to take a nap. I checked out City.
But Jeff, you already took a nap. You already took a nap.
I did. I took a coma earlier, so you'd think I would be napped out, but
it's coma.
You mentioned fishing, and I'm there. No, but I did like the vibes and like the fact that I always felt this urgent need to go back to shore and do stuff before nightfall. Like I was just so creeped out at night, that they did such a good job of the atmosphere of the game. And I understand that there's like a story that involves at least one of 2 choices at the end, which is kind of cool that they did that. Because it didn't need to be that kind of game, so that's kind of cool that they did that.
So I know Kyle played Dredge, loved it. I played it and loved it. I have it barely over Cocoon. You played Cocoon and loved it, and I still have Cocoon up pretty high. So let's just see if there's a tiebreaker with the score. You guys are all seeing my full list here.
Yeah, I can see that. I would imagine
Cocoon probably got higher scores.
Cocoon's at 87, and Dredge, it's somewhere in the 80s. I thought there it is. It's at 82. So I think Cocoon needs to be just above it, just as a tiebreaker, because I don't know that we'll be able to really rank. It's gonna be hard to rank since we haven't all played all of them.
Right.
So let's put Cocoon just above it.
All right. Did we already say we're cool with Bramble being above Convergence? I just want to make sure that was.
I am. Yeah. Okay. I've got it above it.
I thought I said I was cool with that too. I just didn't make sure. I just didn't know.
I know that Kyle played it and really enjoyed it as well. So I think it's. And I don't even think he finished it, but it was enough, right, Kyle, to like.
For which game?
For Bramble.
Yeah. I'm a real big fan of that game. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, but we have Convergence above Bolt Gun. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. Okay. Yeah, so this is kind of like the.
That's all right.
3 through 6.
Cool.
That's what it's looking like.
Cool.
And then let's see, we got Sea of Stars and Dave the Diver. Again, weird games to compare. Outside of the fact that they're made by smaller teams, they're so different. And of course, Dave the Diver.
Other than the sea aspect, that's about it. Like
they both involve salt water. That's pretty much
pretty much. Yeah.
Both have really good retro style graphics.
Great retro style.
That's about it. Those are the parallels.
Yes.
I'm just annoyed for myself because I want to try Dave the Diver, never mind just because of everyone seeming to love it, but it just looks quirky and interesting.
It's on Switch. You'd really like it, dude.
That's such a switchy game, man, to like pick up and play real quick. And it was just on sale for like $15 like a week ago, so like you can catch it on a sale at some point. And I highly suggest maybe playing it somewhere like there because that feels like a game you can just pick up and put down.
At one point, CD Keys had it for pretty cheap. It might not be. Oh, there it was.
I mean, it's not
$16.50.
Right?
It's normally $30, I think.
Oh, is it
25 or something?
Or 25? Yeah, it's somewhere up there. So anyway, CD Keys has it for pretty cheap right now. Anyway, so I do think all 4 of us have played at least a chunk of Sea of Stars and have it rated pretty high. Am I right in saying that?
Yeah.
I did finish it. Yeah.
I think everybody unanimously loves that one. Whereas like maybe most of us have played David Diver, but it's maybe just you and me, Tim, who we're like, yeah. So I don't know. To me, it seems like Sea of Stars has to be number one.
I think it does too. I've got Sea of Stars as number 2, and Dave the Diver was my favorite small game of the year.
I can't wait for you to
play
eventually find time to beat that, because you're gonna.
All right, so here's why Sea of Stars is so high up there for me, even though I only essentially played the demo's worth of that game. Even so, I haven't gone back to it since then. I plan to, but I mean, it is such an homage to that 16/32-bit era of gaming, which was my immersion into the RPG experience. So like Chrono Trigger and the early, the Final Fantasies 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, like that realm. It kind of it feels like it's mostly Chrono Trigger, of course, which is it's one of those games that is either number 1 or 2 on my all-time list. It just depends on what kind of mood I'm in. It's between Chrono Trigger and Suikoden 2. I can never decide. Every week it's different, I feel like. But this game is right. It feels like it is a love letter to those style of games, which are my favorites. So
it's literally
everything about it I love. I just haven't spent time with it like I needed to.
It's literally Chrono Trigger and like Super Mario RPG had a baby. Like and like that's amazing. Like
totally amazing.
Yeah. You have like what one of like the usually people consider one of the greatest RPGs of all time, Chrono Trigger, and then just like one of the most like charming Mario games that's not like a traditional Mario game.
We had never seen anything like that with Mario before, right? With Mario RPG, it was
and crazy. That combat is not very there's not a ton of games that did actually do that. I mean, other games did end up doing that combat, but it's not common either. That sort of interactive, like in the middle of a fight type of combat, which
Agreed.
I'm just shocked that more didn't do that, because I think it would have been the next sort of evolution of turn-based games. But
yeah, right.
I agree. Yeah, I think this is our 10 based on what we're saying too. Hey, listen, it's 2024. I'm trying to be a better listener this year, guys. I'm trying. So I'm trying to hear what you're all saying, and I know that Jeff and I have played. Jeff's probably played the most of these games. I'm probably second. Kyle's probably third, and we know Dan's fourth. That's for sure. Just in terms of like how many of these we tried, but I feel like this is a pretty good representation of us as a podcast, our top 10.
Yeah.
And look at combination of what we played and how much we enjoyed them.
We definitely. It all speaks to how good the year was overall. I mean, for the indie games to deliver this hard, look at everything that's left in consideration.
Yeah.
I mean, I would say I haven't even played like some of those, but at least half of the ones over there that I did play could have been in the 10 as well. Like, I mean, they're just so good. But a good year overall, even with indie games.
Yeah, totally agree. Well, here's our top 10 best small game of 2023. Starting at number 10, it's Theatrhythm Final Bar Line, Mage Seeker League of Legends Story, Talos Principle 2. That's at number 8. Number 7 is Warhammer 40K Bolt Gun. Number 6 is Convergence, a League of Legends story. Number 5 is Bramble the Mountain King. Number 4 is Dredge. Number 3 is Cocoon. Number 2 is Dave the Diver. And number 1, Sea of Stars. I can, outside of Talos Principle 2, I can recommend all these games. I need to play Talos before I can recommend it. I haven't played it, so I can't recommend it. But I think as a group, we can recommend all of these. They're all so good. So go check those out. Awesome year for small games, and it's funny because this is one of the biggest years of small games getting overshadowed by all the major releases that happened across all platforms.
They really have. Like, I mean, there was no room for any of these in the
That's
Game
why
Awards
I didn't play many
at
at all this year.
It's one of the easiest years to miss them. Yeah,
because I was just busy with every month there was a new 40+ hour game, and it's just like
it's just disrespectful. Honestly, that's just rude.
It really is. Yeah.
It's just rude. Yeah.
So
inconsiderate.
Yeah, I totally agree. All right, well, that's good. That's our best small game of the year. Let's move into most surprising games. Now, you guys might have a different category, which is totally fine. But I listed most surprising games, if I can find them here. And then also, if you've got any other categories you want to dive into, we can do that. Where did they go? I've got them here somewhere. I'm trying to look at it on my phone and not my computer, since I've got my my computer is all weird.
Computer. I'll do a use.
Oh, there we go. Okay. So I don't really have a top 10. It's more like, hey, here are 7 games that were surprising. And this is for a wide variety of reasons. And I'll do it real quick. I'll just give you a quick reason why each one was surprising. All right. So Ravenlock was a surprising game because it seemed like a Game Pass shovelware game that I didn't care about. But as soon as I fired it up, I think out of all the games I played this year, I just wasn't expecting it to be that pretty to look at and to listen to. The music in that game is also really, really good. Is it that fun to play? No, I understand why it got mostly 6s and 7s because the gameplay is really repetitive and it's not super challenging or incredibly unique. But the look of it's very Alice in Wonderland meets kind of this weird Minecrafty mixture of stuff. It's very interesting. So Ravenlock was a surprise one. Alan Wake 2, I did not expect to love it. I expected to like it and kind of shrug my shoulders at like, I don't know what happened, but it was kind of fun, I think. It was kind of creepy. And I loved Alan Wake 2.
Oh yeah.
I got to a certain point where I didn't want to do anything else. I didn't want to play anything else. I didn't want to watch anything else. And Remedy, man, they do it to me every time that I give one of their games a shot and push through that. There's like this wall in most games that Remedy makes that you're like, I don't know about this game, man. If you can push through that wall, at least for me, it'll hook you. It happened with the first Alan Wake. It happened with Control.
Wall you gotta break through.
Happened with Quantum Break. Like there was these moments where I was kind of like, oh, I love this now. Okay, I don't know what happened, but something happened, and I love it. So, Dredge surprised me mainly because I went from demo, not really loving it, to main game, couldn't stop playing it. I spent a ton of time with that game and absolutely adore it. I think Dredge is fantastic. And like Jeff said, you hear fishing and you kind of start to snore a little bit involuntarily. But man, Dredge was a good time. A really fun game. Dave the Diver. It's a stupid name for a game, guys. It's a dumb name. But now that I've played it, I'm like, that's the best name for a game. Like, you know what I mean? Like my mind, even on the title, changed. That game is so fun. I think I ended up spending like 35 hours with that game. That's like an RPG length game.
That's insane.
Yeah.
That's like Sea of Stars is how long. That's how long that game is.
I love the loop of it. I love the silly story. I love like the funny dialogue, the little nods to stuff. There's lots of nods to real life things and other games in there that they sneak in. It's a really creative little game. Hey, on the negative side, Redfall surprised me because I thought that would be really good because I thought Arcane makes good video games, everybody.
They have a perfect batting average. Oh, I'm sorry. They had a perfect batting average. So yeah.
That was a legitimate surprise to me that not only I even thought initially the negative reviews were like, this is just haters. This is just people who are like, it must be 60 frames per second. And I was even brushing off the initial hate for it. Like, oh, these guys, these ponies out here. And then I actually tried it and I was like, yeah, this is bad. Like this is not good.
It's toilet bad.
I was surprised. Baldur's Gate 3 surprised me because I thought I could ignore that game comfortably and not think about it because usually those kind of like super in-depth CRPGs, I think they call them, that are like
they call them CRPGs.
Yeah, that are like usually way above my head, or I'm just not that interested. I don't really care that much about D&D. I've never been a huge D&D fan, but I ended up really being interested, and I actually am gonna. I've just this week started kind of diving back into my save a little bit, trying to reacclimate a little bit to like, okay, what's my gear? Where am I? It's like I'm trying. I do want to play more of that game. That was a surprise to me. I should have been able to comfortably ignore that game, and I couldn't because the whole world was talking about it. And then Hi-Fi Rush. I did not expect a announce and release, shadow release game to not only be great, but to be one of my favorites of the year. And it came out in January. I should have forgotten about this game. I should have been like, oh yeah, Hi-Fi Rush. That was a good time.
And the industry didn't either, so that's awesome too.
I love it. Yeah. It was one of the biggest surprises for me too. So those are some of my biggest surprises in gaming this past year. Do you guys have any of those or another category that you want to throw out there? Anybody?
I've got some surprises. Yeah.
All right. What do you got?
I just followed suit with what was written, and I thought it ended up being a pretty good list that I got here. The very first surprise was Hogwarts Legacy. I could give a shit less about Harry Potter.
All right. Yeah.
I just, or couldn't. Fair. I don't know. However you say that, I don't really care about that IP very much.
Sure.
But I was immediately dragged in by like everything, how magical the game felt, and like all of a sudden I found myself caring. I think I was joking on the podcast. I was like, dang, I've been looking up like words and stuff like that, and I kind of speak the jargon and lingo now, and like I got into that game in a big way. So big surprise here, Dead Island 2 is another one, talk about a game that shouldn't have been good, and it was. That's crazy. 10 years of just like horrible development and developers leaving and yada yada.
True.
Like that game should be a 3, you know, and end up being like one of the best selling games of the year.
And we had some 3s this year. That could have been one of them, but it wasn't.
Right, exactly. Yeah. I also want to echo for Baldur's Gate 3. That was one when I kept on seeing the stuff. I was like, I don't like Divinity. I hate that game so much, you know, because I'm bad at it. I know it's a very quality game.
It's a lot.
And I hate it because I suck at it. I want to be good at something like that. This one was a little easier to get into, I would say. And the replication of because I used to play D&D tabletop a lot, and like being able to like replicate that and the best way that video games have ever done it, period, and share that with people online and stuff like that, meeting like it was a board game every week on a specified date for a specified window of time. It just really made me feel like I was in my teens again, like meeting up and playing Warhammer or playing D&D and stuff like that. Very, very, very magical experience for me. Dave the Diver, the surprise there came from because I was cheering on this game when it was in early access. I thought this game looked great. I didn't know anybody was talking about it. And then it came out and it was like the best-selling, most successful indie game, quote unquote, of the year. So that I was surprised that that game caught fire in the way that it did. Remnant 2, there were so many interesting boss fights in that like blew my mind, and the way that that game just comes together in a way that like doesn't feel procedural. It feels so handcrafted and so perfect, even though everything about it is almost procedural. It's just crazy to me. I don't know what program they're using, but it's out of this world. Another one is Like a Dragon Ishin. I thought I was going to like this game for sure, you know, Samurais, Yakuza, but like spin-offs kind of, you know, spin-offs or whatever usually. Yeah. This was hands down my favorite game in the entire franchise. A spin-off is my favorite entry in the entire franchise. I thought it was absolutely outstanding. The historical stuff that they brought in was accurate enough, but they took a lot of liberties. But like a lot of the stuff that they were saying, a lot of the dates, a lot of the events were all real things, and to be able to capture that in a way in this really fun kind of Yakuza style story, or Like a Dragon style story, was just was awesome. So very surprised that I ended up loving that as much as I did. And then the last one I'll say, even though I've got plenty here, was Trepang 2. I'm just glad someone's out there making games like that still. It's so old school. It's kind of, you know, muddy in the way that it controls and stuff like that. But I'm just glad we're still like making slow-mo driven, hyper violent, you know, shooters still. And I'm glad someone's carrying that torch. And I hope someone else, you know, continues to carry that torch. So
that game is a pretty big deal in a lot of circles for a little bit there.
I think anybody who likes Fear would like this game. If you never played Fear, I don't think you're going to give a shit about this game. So that's kind of that's kind of the short and the long of it. But yeah, very surprising that game even came out, or that it was capturing something like
pretty good year for some surprises. And I like that you kept it P. I went a little bit negative on it.
I tried to find a negative one in here, but I guess I didn't really. I knew there was something I was jilted by this year, but I actually couldn't find it. So
yeah.
If I think of it, I'll bring it up.
Jeff, what about you? Any surprises from the year that you want to highlight?
Yeah, buddy. A couple of these you guys already mentioned. Dead Island 2, in a positive way, of course. Should have been, like Kyle said, one of the biggest 3s in the year.
Yeah.
And it was just so much fun.
Yeah.
And on the negative side, this is my only negative one, is Redfall, like you said. I mean, it's Arcane.
I guess Redfall is,
so like,
may have been the
what
one.
the hell? What the actual hell? So
I was also surprised they released it that bad. You know what I mean? Like, it's a combination.
Yeah, apparently, so were they.
yeah. Like, oh, is this bad?
Yeah. Oh, whoops.
And I try to like it too. Like, I was like, I like the premise. I like everything about that game. And then once I started playing it, I was like, I want to uninstall this now.
Yeah. I felt like I was an early alpha tester for that thing, man. It was not.
I only have 3 left, but they're all kind of personal surprises because I didn't expect to like these kind of games in 2023, but it happened. Octopath Traveler 2, never really played this type of game before, ever.
Surprise ever.
Like a turn-based game is just normally so off-putting for me. I say normally, but it's just not true anymore. I think Midnight Suns was a good entry into that. Especially with that being a little more fast-paced and like, pick the card, do it now. Yeah. And this was definitely that. Like, I mean, I tend to treat at least turn-based games like that, where it's like, do the move, do it now. I'm always kind of like rapid fire.
Gun to the head.
So like, yeah, I not only was I impressed by like how the combat felt, but like the freaking writing of all of the characters individually and like their backstory and the world and the lore. it just blew my freaking mind. Kind of on that same trajectory as Sea of Stars, because I didn't expect to care about not just the combat like being also turn-based, and in a different way that is that Octopath offers, where it's like there's timing involved in certain hits and blocks and stuff like that. But like the whole pixelated art form is kind of sometimes lost on me. Like I'm just like, okay, whatever, it looks retro, whatever. But this game totally works. Like it just you can see the art styles evolve as the story moves along. Like in each different world that you're visiting, basically, or each island feeling like a different world.
The environment,
the environments. So. And the music is just incredible and so varied. And I love when you finally get to that Fleshmancer's place, it's like, it's awesome, dude. It's incredible. And then my main surprise is obviously Theater Rhythm Final Bar Line. I mean, what the hell am I doing playing this game?
Why do you like this game?
I don't understand. It's in my top 10 of the year period. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's either right at 10 or right off, but I put like 24, 30 hours in this game, something like that. Yeah.
I had such a great time at the early start of the year because it was like Q1 game where I was just like drinking like Jameson and playing that game and like just having a blast.
Yeah. I love that, man. That's great.
Reminded me.
Did you see like going off like would the music almost be like a gateway to trying the older ones? Because I know you're like turn-based, whatever, but like you're playing some of these newer.
Well, I tried the
turn-based.
first one and that was ass. I could.
For Final Fantasy 1 or
yes.
I feel like if you didn't grow up playing that game, there's no way that you could just
start
like
at 6.
Yeah.
Five maybe.
No, I would go beyond that. I would say 10 is a good starting Final Fantasy.
9's a good one to start at. 9's a good one.
It's too slow. It's too slow.
It might be too slow.
Well, I mean, technically 10 is slow too, but you're not being. The thing is, it's not active turn-based, so that might like maybe make Jeff like kind of like, oh, I don't want to like. You're making me do stuff like think like on the fly really fast, whereas 10 is like you can kind of look at what's going on and it's all true. Just like you're taking the turns based off of the speed stat, you know what I mean? So
what I like about 10 is you always know where to go next. It's where you didn't come.
It did guide you better in that one than any of the previous.
It's just a hallway. You're just walking straight that entire game.
I will say this though, with
I know, and I mean that's not. It's a criticism for me. It's a very big positive for me. So
with your enjoyment of Octopath Traveler 2 and Sea of Stars, I still think if you gave some of the Super Nintendo ones a shot, you might really enjoy them. Like the Final Fantasy 6.
I looked at Chrono, one of the Chrono games.
Chrono Trigger.
Or Chrono Trigger.
Yeah.
I looked at Trigger, I looked at screenshots, and I was like, this actually looks like it. I could still enjoy this nowadays.
Oh, it's a beautiful game still.
It's on Steam. I think they fixed it up. I know there were some complaints on Steam about. I think it runs fine now. I could be wrong, but anyway.
Yeah.
I just like the color palettes. It looks so. I could see where Sea of Stars got some inspiration.
Yeah. Final Fantasy 6 or 4 would be the two. I would say like pixelated Final Fantasies. That would be like the ones that story wise and like what's going on in there.
4 and 6 are great.
Yeah. Agreed.
Cool.
Good music.
All right, Dan. Do you have any surprises from 2023 you want to highlight?
I mean, it would the two pretty much you guys all listed. Dead Island 2.
Yeah.
Which I played at that Zen house, which was awesome on like a movie theater screen, which was amazing.
Was that? That's pretty cool. Okay.
It was super rad, dude. I mean, playing anything on that screen was amazing, but like for some reason, like I bought that specifically at that time, and I was like, I'm gonna play this on the. It's just drop kicking zombies, murdering zombies on a big screen. It's just a good time. It's just a good time. Yeah. And then same with Baldur's Gate 3, like you said, Tim. Like CRPGs are just not common for me, so. But I love medieval fantasy stuff, so it's like the theming of that, like I was like here for it, but combat wise I was like, I don't know, like I started playing was it Divinity? Maybe it was Divinity 2, not the other one. There's Pillars of Eternity and then there's Divinity.
I get them mixed up.
It was Divinity Original Sin 2 that I think I like started playing and I was like, this is overwhelming. Like I was like, oh my god.
Pillars of Eternity is that Obsidian game, right? Everybody keeps talking about.
Is it Obsidian?
Yeah, that's an Obsidian game.
But yes, and then I think they are making a new one, aren't they? No, maybe they're not.
Well,
I know they did like a remaster of the first one.
Well, I know that Obsidian keeps bringing up the game because they know their fans love it. Like they're like.
What's interesting to me too about Baldur's Gate is I still don't know if I'm into CRPGs after this. I just for me to get into the combat, I had to start thinking of it like a tabletop game. And the second I started,
I love the way you described it, Kyle.
Yeah, so the second I started choosing it, like, okay, I'm looking at my character sheet.
Yep.
And I'm
With your
choosing my
buddies
actions.
at the table.
Yeah, like that was able, because it was very tough for me when I started it solo. I was like, man, I don't know. When do I know when I'm supposed to shove someone off a cliff, or when do I know when I'm supposed to use a move or move, my character to engage? Or it just felt overwhelming. But then the second I stepped back and I was like, wait a minute, this is my character sheet. It's doing all the measurements for me, like it all clicked, like, and then but I don't know if that's going to be the case if I start another CRPG. You know what I mean?
Right.
I don't know if that translates. So,
dude, I had that same feeling when I played Valheim, and I was like, "Ooh, I think I love survival games with building," and I have yet to really find hardly any that I enjoy.
Yeah.
That's really the only one. Like, there's a few others that I like, but none that I've loved. Hopefully, in a couple weeks here when Enshrouded comes out. Everything I've tried the demo and everything
Everybody's
I'm seeing about
talking about this game.
I can't wait, man. I can't wait for it. I've watched people build like full-on Hobbit hole houses in that game because the way the physics work in it, it looks so cozy and fun. Anyway, okay. So that was surprises. Anything else, Dan, for surprises?
Well, I was gonna say, is this the segment where we're doing our personal list of something?
Yeah, what other categories do you want to celebrate?
Because I have a more definitive, like I was gonna do the games, like my 5 favorite games that I streamed this year.
Do that one.
So.
Please, sure.
Yeah.
So there's actually there's like an extension that you can attach onto like your like profile, your Twitch profile, that's called Rank 1. Which is actually really nice. So like basically I have like a list of like games that I plan on streaming, what I'm streaming right now, and then what I finished. So then I can like move it over and it has dates on it, which is really nice and kind of fun to like look at as I'm scrolling through. So really fun. I started the OG version of Super Mario RPG back in March.
Right.
And then I closed off like towards the end of the year with the remake, which obviously I didn't anticipate happening because they didn't announce it until later. So I was like, this is amazing. So yeah, that was just really special and just kind of funny that I like started the year with the old one and then kind of finished the year with the new one.
By the way, with surprises, Dan, 2 of your favorite things were announced this year. Super Mario RPG was announced and released this year. And then we got Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. I was there doing the reaction with you when they showed that trailer, and you were like, "No, they're not doing this." Like I could just like feel the energy. You were so excited. So like,
absolutely.
In terms of surprises, that's been a good year for you too.
Yeah, I guess Super Mario RPG remake would be a surprise. I'm not surprised that I enjoyed it. So I guess I was looking at it like that way.
Yeah. Of course,
because they did they did that team did an amazing job. And I hope that I think the director, if I've heard correctly, the director of that team that remade it like wants to do a sequel. They're like, if we can do a sequel, then we'll do that. And I'm like, do it.
The second I read that, I was like, boy, that game better have sold well. You can't, because I don't want someone to talk about it and it not happen.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. If you had told the Dan of like 15 years ago, hey, there's going to be one single year where there's Final Fantasy 16, there's Super Mario RPG, and the second part of a full remake, a complete reimagining of Final Fantasy 7 is going to be hitting within just a few short months of the next year, you would be like, that's not true. None of those things are happening. Like this
Spider-Man 2 also.
Spider-Man 2, it's going to be like, no, that's not happening.
I was spoiled this year. I was spoiled. But that was just really fun and amazing to do those 2 in the same year. And this is all in no particular order. I replayed Mario 64 for the first time in a very long time. And I got all 120 stars.
Yeah,
you did. Gamer right here, guys.
Not okay, dude. That's
hard.
Like, so fun fact, I actually bought. I don't have it right next to me. I bought a cable that basically allows me to do HDMI to the for my N64 now, my actual original N64. I bought an adapter off of Amazon, and I actually plugged that into my TV the other day. So I hooked that up, and the game that I tested was Mario 64, and I had 2 save files on there, 2 different save files with 120 star. So apparently, I am a pro gamer.
Yeah, you've done that 3 times now.
Live and die by the pro game.
I will say this: that when I was watching your stream, Dan, as you were working up, I didn't see when you got 120, but I saw when you were close. And I did see somewhere in the 100 and teens, you talked to Toad and he gave you a star. Like, well, how many of these did I miss? Like, he just gave you a star. Like, did I miss a bunch of these?
Dude, I forgot about the 100 coin stars. I completely, because it's been so long. Like, I just didn't remember until I was at the very end. I was like, shit, I got to redo all of these levels just to get the coin, which was fine. You know, it was like a fun, like, backtracking thing. But yeah, that was just a really fun experience and a fun way to end the year too, of like accomplishing like kind of like an extra thing, not just finishing the game, but like going for 100%. That was really fun. So was that third game? I replayed Final Fantasy VII earlier in the year. That was really fun to just kind of like that was the first. No, I played Remake. But that was like the first like classic RPG that I played on stream was the original Final Fantasy VII. So that was just special in of itself because it's, I mean, my favorite video game of all time. So, but then speaking of RPGs, and then the fifth game would be Xenogears.
Yes.
Which, I mean, I had never played before. Had never played Xenogears. So
cool.
And somehow avoided pretty much all spoilers.
Which is in itself incredible.
That's crazy. That you
in this day and age,
such a Square fan that you haven't seen the spoilers is crazy to me.
Yeah.
Such a fan.
The only thing that I was aware of was all the discourse about towards the end of the game.
Yeah, where they ran out of budget or whatever. Yeah.
Just all the things of like people saying like, yeah, like people feel very strongly about the second disc, like things happen in the second disc for better or worse, and people feel very upset about it, or they're, you know, whatever, this and that. But that was the only thing. I just didn't know specifics. Somehow I avoided all those specifics. But what was funny is because that game kind of took me a long time to beat on stream, I actually ended up really liking the second disc because like the brisk pace of them having like to go through the story much quicker in that second disc because they ran out of budget, or Square was basically saying, okay, you got to wrap things up, whatever it was. It just kind of made it so I finished faster on stream. So I actually kind of appreciated how quickly it goes at the end there. But that game is wild, dude. If they actually could remake it, which I just don't see it being possible, that would be just an insane game to play with modern technology and just ideas, you know, doing whatever, kind of like enhancing the combat, modernizing it and the visuals and whatever. Like that would just be bonkers. And there's so much dialogue in that game too. It's so much dialogue. So
you can see where Xenosaga got it from on the PS2.
Oh man!
Where,
yes, yeah.
45
3 whole games.
Yeah. Everyone was dining at the house of Kojima on that one, you know.
Dude, that really is like the Kojima of That's Xenogears feels like that too. Like
just not voice acting. I feel like Xenosaga and even Xenoblade to an extent, you know, all kind of. They're like, we do long cutscenes, less dialogue.
You can put the controller down and get something to eat while we do this.
Right. You got a sandwich you need to eat. Now's the time.
Yeah, now's the time. Yeah.
But yeah, I can see why people. When I was streaming it, a lot of people would come in and it would be like top 3 RPG for them. They're like, this is a top. Man. This is like my favorite RPG. I'm like, all right, yeah.
All right, nice. Was there another one? I think that was the. No,
I was keeping it at 5. So that.
So what do you? Yeah. Real quick, maybe unless you don't want to say, like 2024 Dapper _Chocobo streaming. What I mean, right now you're playing through Final Fantasy 1, but what else do you think's on the horizon in this year for streaming?
So I'm going on my Pixel remaster journey right now.
Okay.
So I'm gonna play them in order.
Did you add a bunch of add-ins and stuff like that to your stream for that? Weren't you prepping a lot of things?
Yeah, I got like specific like overlays that are all very Final Fantasy Pixel remastered. Like everything looks all pixelated. I made this little scene where it's the chatting scene. I'm like in this like wooden pixelated frame, and I have like a little pixelated bonfire going, and I have the music playing in the background. That's like D&D cozy music, but it's got like bonfire sounds going on too. It's very comfortable. It's
very cozy. I love it.
But yeah, I'm gonna do 1 through 6 in a row. And then I'll take a break. And then I actually want to do Last of Us 1 and 2. I really want to do those back to back.
That's shifting gears right there, man. But
from cozy to cruel.
But that's on the agenda, and I want to do those because I mean they're the first one's like one of my favorite video games of all time. So
yeah, so like instead of like cozy bonfire pixelated overlays, it's gonna be overlays of like the person you care about the most is probably gonna die.
Yeah, there's just
screaming
blood.
babies in the background.
Yeah.
Just unnerving stuff.
Just death and loss.
Yeah, just
no fire at all.
beams.
Just darkness, perpetual darkness.
Just darkness.
Or just blood dripping.
Yeah.
But yeah, I want to do those, and I tend to do like a cozy game, like something a little more laid back, like a platformer or something like that.
Yeah.
Alongside the RPGs. So Yoshi's Island is actually probably gonna be the next one, the Super Nintendo one.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Very fun.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, which actually, hold on.
What? Do you have Yoshi actually there? Is real Yoshi there?
Yes. Yeah.
What it
So
sounded
much
like
fumbling around the sound.
I know.
Yeah.
So I got my
Hold
wife got me this Retron N for Christmas.
Oh,
Oh, all right.
Got all the slots.
Nice. I've seen these. Yeah.
And then right up here. So it plays NES, Super NES, Super Famicom, Sega Genesis, and Game Boy Advance games.
What?
Love it.
Wow.
Yeah.
And technically Game Boy games, because the Game Boy Advance would play Game Boy games. So technically
That was
also
one of the best.
Yeah, they would like stick out.
compatibility
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it would stick out way far.
Yeah.
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 so this thing is super cool. It's also got like filters, so like the games that they all look pixelated, of course, you can actually kind of like make them look a little like smoother. I actually popped in Yoshi's Island in here, and it made it look like paint, like almost like a painting. It kind of like smoothed out the edges, and just like has like
Peter
little
Jackson
things like,
over here remastering the Beatles.
For real.
That's
yeah,
right.
yeah.
That's right. But yeah, this I had
What's next?
asked
You got
for
to
this.
colorize World War One.
That's right.
Oh, they did that already.
Oh, they did that.
They did that already. Yeah.
Dang it. Yeah.
Wait, World War One was in color?
It
They
is
didn't
now,
all see it in
baby.
black and white. They didn't see in
Everybody
black and
back
white.
then was like, this is all black and white. I can't tell what blood it is.
But yeah, this was like I had asked for it. My wife got it for me because she's
That's
awesome,
amazing.
and it's really cool. So I could,
I've
yeah,
never
I'm
even
gonna
heard
start
of this
like,
before. I got to look into this. This is awesome.
yeah,
I've seen
it's
these, yeah.
Hyperkin. I'm sure you've heard of Hyperkin, right? Because they do controllers and stuff.
Yeah. I have.
So they make these.
That's
And yeah,
awesome,
it's
dude.
just really cool because I'm gonna start actually trying to like occasionally play off of like old carts and stuff like that. So
I do have the SNES retro, like the system that has them all just digitally
Yeah.
in that little
Yeah.
wheel
The
there.
mini or
That's
whatever. Yeah.
the mini. Yeah, I've got that.
because I have played a couple of the things off of that. Like I played Super Mario World and Mario 3 off of that thing.
Off of the mini. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
and
is that just HDMI also? where you
Because
just
it's got the
plug-
HDMI already.
Yeah,
on
yeah.
there.
That's amazing, man.
yeah, that's
so
why it's
cool.
really nice because I can literally plug this out of my TV if I want. I can go play my old
Yeah.
Super Nintendo games out there. So
I love that. That's sweet.
So yeah, it's really cool.
All right, before we get into our last shared ranking of this week, let's talk real quick about some of our favorite movies of the year. I know that if you don't know this already, we do have a current cinema playlist on this channel as well. If you're watching on YouTube, go check that out. Our current cinema podcast. I know that Jeff and Kyle, they'll kind of do episodes in waves. Is that fair to say? We'll do like waves of episodes, and
Yeah.
so I highly recommend going to check that out. But they're much more movie watchers than I know Dan and I are. Although we do like a movie here and there, of course. So we'll real quick, Dan, you and I will go, and then we'll let Kyle and then Jeff go on movies. Do you have any movies from 2023 that you like, Dan, that you want to highlight?
So I unless I'm just forgetting something completely, I only watched 2 movies from last year, and the second movie I watched last night.
Nice.
What was it?
You doubled
The
your
Creator.
movies overnight.
You did.
That's true. The Creator.
What'd you think?
That was really fun, dude. That was
Yeah,
really.
dude. Yeah, I
Not,
love that movie.
I'm not like an expert of sci-fi movies, but because I know you said like this has been done before, but they just do it really well here.
Mhm.
And I agree. I really enjoyed it. I thought
I
it was.
think
a
that
good
was
time.
most people's criticism was that like I've seen this movie before, and I'm like, yeah,
Sure.
you've seen a lot of movies before. That's the
Yeah.
point,
Sure, right,
you know?
yes,
it's about
exactly.
execution on ideas, not you know.
Right.
I'm
okay,
sorry,
yeah.
but you can't say you haven't seen John Wick 4 before, but it was amazing. It was an amazing version of
right.
that.
Sure.
thing.
I just made this
Sure.
comparison the other day, but like when another World War II movie comes out, I'm not like, ugh, this again?
Oh,
Another World War II movie? Like, oh, we've
Let's
seen this
invade
story
Europe
before,
again.
Yeah.
Oh.
No, it's about execution and how cool,
Yeah.
putting ideas together is, and
Yeah.
in an area of stuff that you're familiar with. So,
Yeah, just really cool imagery. The cinematography is great.
so low,
Man, these
can you
movies-
believe that's a low budget movie? or lower budget.
Yeah,
not
crazy.
indie budget, but it's not. It doesn't. Yeah. It's way cheaper than it actually looks.
Well, it gives me hope for the next D&D movie because they're saying the budget for that's likely to be pretty low based on like they want to make it. It sounds like there's interest in making it, but the budget's going to be severely less. But I'm like, hey, you can make a great movie on a lower budget. You really can.
Yeah, so, you don't need to have like CGI dragons every 5 seconds, which they didn't in the first one. But like, yeah, you can make a pretty grounded, and fun Dungeons and Dragons movie.
Okay. Yeah. And then the other movie I saw was Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, which I saw in the mini movie theater, by the way. I mean, like, I've never seen. My eyes have not seen anything like that ever in my life.
One of the greatest animation spectacles in the history of animation spectacles.
Yeah,
for
real.
And it's like you remember back to like all the stories of like, yeah, like this was painstaking work. Like we were like overworked and this was awful and the work environment was terrible. It's like that sucks. But like
that sucks. But congrats also on your Oscar. Yeah.
Look at it though.
Congrats on all your awards.
The work paid off clearly, but it's just like to get.
I'm sorry it had
there.
Yeah, I'm sorry it had a like those ingredients were in there, but.
You really want it to be good. Just throw some human suffering at it. It's
yeah. I thought suffering was the muse of humans already. So
it is. Sure.
I'm actually pro suffering of employees now, guys.
Right. Yeah.
Forced suffering. Forced suffering.
It's a pro crunch podcast.
Pro crunch.
All right. So that movie is amazing.
Dan, I also didn't watch a ton of movies from this year, but I watched more than 2. So I'll just quickly go through my list. I'm going to work from bottom to the top. So like these are the ones that the way that I ranked them. I tried to use Letterboxd, starting at the bottom, working my way up. I think I've only got like a dozen or so. So at the bottom is Genie, that Melissa McCarthy movie that just came out. It's a very cheesy family Christmas movie. My kids thought it was really funny. It's not a good movie though. But
I'm sorry you had to watch that.
It's not good. And then Old Dads was next. I thought it was.
I'm an old dad.
That was fine, but like,
hey, Dad is old.
It's exactly like all the jokes were kind of like I could have told you Bill Burr's probably gonna make a joke about that. So I don't know. It was fine. It was fine. All right. So now we get to those are the ones that I thought were just okay. All of the rest of these I thought were somewhere between good and really like great. So Please Don't Destroy the Treasure of Foggy Mountain. I thought was so funny. It's so dumb. But man, it brought me back to like the old days of like Super Troopers. It had that style of comedy, and I just loved it. I thought it was so silly and stupid and so funny. Barbie, I have it. I think this is number 10 now. We're at number 10.
Wow.
Barbie, I thought was pretty clever and really fun. I really overall enjoyed it. And people who are calling it garbage either didn't see it or they already wanted to hate it when they went into it. I think if you look at it for what it is, it's a pretty fun movie. The people making it clearly had fun. I thought it was overall a fun movie. Not perfect, but fun.
It made $1 billion, so who cares about people who hate that movie?
I guess.
And it's about to like not win a bunch of awards, but get nominated for so many awards. Get ready for the whiplash, dude. Get ready for the.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It was actually not that good. I don't get it.
Yeah. Of course.
No, it was a lot of fun. And then speaking of movies that made a lot of money, that also I understand not everyone loved, but I thought it was good for what it was trying to be. Was Super Mario Brothers movie is number 9. I thought it was a lot of fun.
Yes.
You saw that one, right, Dan?
You saw 3 movies this year, Dan. You lied.
Wow. Dan should be on Current Cinema. What are we doing?
So I thought
Super Mario
Brothers movie was a really good time. I've only seen it twice. I saw it once in theaters and then once when it came out on streaming. And super fun, man. I love the Mario Brothers movie. The next one, we get real serious here. It was The Killer on Kyle and Jeff's recommendation.
Yes, we got one, Kyle.
I thought it was
which movie?
The Killer.
The Killer.
Michael Fassbender.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, really good movie, really well made. Honestly, was a little put off by all of the narration at the beginning, but I started to really appreciate it and almost get annoyed when there wasn't narration as the movie went. I was like, come on, talk to me more.
Narration is really hard to pull off in an engaging way. It is. Yeah,
it is. So
have you seen the original Blade Runner?
Okay. Yeah. I have.
On that point.
Good point. Really good point. So I thought The Killer was really creative and really well. Michael Fassbender is just amazing. Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1 is at number 7. That was a lot of fun. It's got some flaws for sure, but boy, is the cast great. The story's fun. I'm excited for Part 2. It's just a great big screen experience. Really good time. And then same with John Wick Chapter 4. I watched it on a small screen and I thought it was good. I saw it on a bigger
last year too?
Screen. Yeah.
Dan,
4 movies, guys. 4
wow. Movies, Dan.
I thought
he doubled his movie watching in the span of 10 minutes.
I did watch it on a bigger screen and liked it a lot more because you have to see all of it in all of its glory to really appreciate it. So,
oh my God, yes. There's stuff happening in the background that's like, whoa. Really,
really, really great. And it's kind of in a dead tie with the next one. That they're not really ranked one or above the other. I just thought that both of them had incredible action scenes, and the stories are what they are. Like some people like the John Wick lore more than I do, and I think that's totally fine, no problem. I don't dislike it. I just don't think it's amazing. So I put it right on par with like Extraction 2. I thought it was a visual and kind of like stylistic. It was just fun. It was super fun. Really well shot. Really well choreographed. All the action was a blast. So to me, those are both kind of on par with each other. And that's not a diss at all on John Wick 4. I thought Extraction 2 was also excellent.
If anything, that's an elevation of Extraction 2, if anything.
I think so. That's how I look
and I mean that in a good way, because I actually absolutely love it.
I have those both at a 4 out of 5 stars. So this is not an insult to either one. They're both like I didn't think I'd like Extraction 2. I thought Extraction 1 was good but flawed. And I thought the
first one was like a 7 out of 10, but boy did it have that crazy 8-minute sequence. Wow.
It did.
And then the second one definitely elevated its quality big time.
That
not just with that one
from the prison to the like that.
That 14-minute shot, man. Like it's just insane. Like. Or 20, I forget how long it is. It's insane how long it is.
14, 20 minutes. Who knows?
Yeah.
Good.
There's no way to find out either.
I'm not Googling it. Yeah, I don't know. Google's down.
Google's really impossible.
Top 4 would be Air. And thanks, Jeff, for the recommendation on that one.
Air's
I thought that
dad
was
movie. Yeah.
I love that movie.
Yeah.
That's a dad movie, and I'm a dad, and I loved it. I thought it was so fun. It was just a great throwback to the old 80s and early 90s days of like everything from the style to.
I thought the performances were great too. Yeah.
Performances were great. The writing was clever. I thought it was so fun. All right, top 3. Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Among Thieves. This is just.
I can't believe that was last year. By the way, this feels like a 2022 thing we're talking about.
I know.
Yeah, that is crazy.
Because you've watched like 5,000 movies.
But that's true.
But when I watched this,
it feels like 3 years ago to me too, though.
Yeah, similar to Baldur's Gate 3, I thought I would just kind of shrug this off and not care. But I cared a lot, and I thought it was hilarious. We actually just rewatched it, and that's probably why I have it so high. It's because we rewatched it over Christmas break with the kids, and we just all think it's so funny and fun and everything about like it's. I can't say it's definitively the most high quality thing I've ever seen. It's definitely not, but man, is it fun. Like I just had, it's a good time. I really loved D&D Honor Among Thieves. I thought it was a lot of fun. Last Kingdom, 7 Kings Must Die. I'm biased because I love that show. If you don't love the show, it's not a great standalone movie. I will readily admit that. But if you loved the show the way that I did, it's such a good kind of capper on that series. And I have it rated super high just because it's one of my favorite historical fiction shows. And then, of course, number 1 is Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, as Dan just said. It's just brilliant. It's beautiful. It's like yet another perfect Spider-Man movie that they keep making over there. So.
Yeah. That movie got number 1 for all Letterboxd. Well, an aggregate number 1 for Letterboxd 2023 for a reason. Because, I mean, everybody's like in agreement. That movie's really great, right? Like, I mean, you can't really refute it.
You could hate that movie, but if someone looked in my face and goes, hated the whole Mumbai, New York sequence, I would have been like, what were you? Are you blind? You just you went blind and deaf during that?
I love
sequence?
that sequence. What are you talking about?
It's the best thing I've ever seen. And the chase at the end are two of the most brilliantly animated things I've ever seen in my life.
That chase is unbelievable.
I heard it took like 9 months to shoot that,
I bet,
or not shoot it, but like create it or whatever.
Yeah.
To
whatever the version
to crunch it.
To crunch it. Yeah. It took 9 months and 9 sacrifices of the staff. Human blood sacrifices to make that scene.
9 divorces.
Where they get all the red.
Go home.
And you know what? Thanks.
Hey, you know what?
Yeah.
Here's your Oscar. There you go.
Thanks for giving up your marriages and your families for this. Kyle, what about you? What were some of your favorite movies of last year?
I was a bad boy. I have a lot of movie homework to do, but I've got some here that I.
And I'm sure we'll just to let everybody know that might listen to or haven't listened to Current Cinema yet. We are going to do a top 10 episode eventually, but he and I both. I still even have some homework to do for 2023. So Kyle.
So this is this is more of a teaser for you two guys specifically.
Pretty much. Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah, there's still some stuff that I gotta do. So I just want to do a quick shout out to Evil Dead Rise. The movie had no right being as good as it was.
Yeah.
Great horror movie. Great continuation of that series.
5.
Dan, you're on the podcast next week. You're coming on, buddy. Did you like that movie, Dan? Before I move on from that one,
I liked it. I think I liked that other one before, just because
I like that.
I don't know. I liked the setting and just I don't know. There was just something about it that I did like more.
Yeah,
but this one was good too.
the claustrophobic apartment setting.
Yeah,
really
I
just thought that they pulled it off. I was just like, how do you feel like you're trapped somewhere in the middle of a city? And they did it somehow.
Yeah.
Like it still felt,
I still
isolated.
remember that was in my top 25 for the longest time, and then a new movie came out this week, Society of the Snow, and it totally ruined it. No, actually, it's still in my top 25. But anyway, I still think of that that peephole scene.
I thought Society of Snow was a 2024 movie.
Yeah, that's 2024.
I put it in my 2023 because people are going to throw a fit. People that follow me that are also cinephiles are going to be like, actually, that's 2023. So
they're going to actually you?
Yes, they are.
Well, I'm keeping it as a 2024 movie. So. Yeah.
Do it. We literally couldn't see it until this week. But yeah, I still think of that peephole sequence because like that's just so clever, and the fact that he wrote it inspired by like how everybody was behaving during COVID and stuff, like like looking out your peephole and like they're not talking outside my door.
Yeah. Another quick one that I really like, and actually Jeff and I watched this movie together, Blackberry. Boy, what a great movie that is. What an absolutely stellar movie that is.
Did you see
and
that?
Aren't there rumors that they might like extend this into like a miniseries or something?
Well,
with, like,
I think they already I don't know if they already released it or not, but yeah, they're calling it like a miniseries, and it's like 18 minutes of added scenes or extended. Yeah. It's like extended edition or something like that. I don't know.
Creating a phone called the BlackBerry is probably not inherently like a funny thing, but this movie is the funniest movie I've seen this year.
Yeah.
It is shot like a comedy, and like the dialogue is delivered like a comedy, but it actually is about like the creation and the fall of the BlackBerry. Very, very good movie. The cast is outstanding. Absolutely loved it. In a year where I think we're all complaining about Marvel, I will say Guardians of the Galaxy 3 was great. So good job with that, James Gunn. The Killer, Tim already brought that up. What a cool movie. There is a fight sequence in that movie that is just out of this world.
Yes.
In the middle of that movie. Everyone already talked about Across the Spider-Verse.
I'm convinced someone got hurt for real in that fight sequence, but keep going.
Same. Yeah. Hopefully it wasn't the dog. I like that he put it to sleep though and didn't kill it.
Too.
He was, a hitman of morals.
Yeah.
Not many of them, but that's one of them. Across the Spider-Verse, there's no reason to dwell on. Like, this movie's fantastic. If you haven't seen it, you're stupid.
That's correct.
The creator, Dan brought that one up. I absolutely love this movie. Go watch it. It's on Hulu. Super easy to watch. Oppenheimer, great movie. If you were to tell me 20 years ago you were gonna love a movie about a bunch of old people talking about bombs, and no actually showing of really anything, I'd be like, it sounds stupid. But Chris Nolan really figured out a way to make this like an engaging 3 hours, and like I was completely hooked the entire time while watching it. And then John Wick 4, I am the biggest stunt guy. Like, I just love stunts. Show me stunts, real stunts.
Stunts.
No CG. Show me stunts. Like with real actors really hurting themselves, really putting themselves in danger,
dying for real,
absolutely. And the other side of that is like, show me good choreography. And I just don't know if there's any movie in existence that does either of those things better than this movie. Period.
Also, show me a Hotline Miami scene that I've never seen before.
Dude, that sequence was unbelievable.
Yeah.
Holy
crap.
So
unbelievable. And then that's on the heels of what I thought was like the height of that movie, which was like the car part where they're fighting in traffic and stuff like
in
that.
Paris, yeah.
And I'm like, well, this is obviously the climax, and then that scene happens. The Hotline Miami. I'm like, I don't even know what to think anymore. We're just crescendoing because right after that is that
the whole time.
Because right after that's that stair case scene.
Yeah, can we just say
like
John
maybe
Wick
not as like huge and spectacle?
He's bad at
but
stairs, though. He's bad at stairs.
Yeah.
It's not, it maybe not as huge a spectacle, but like they're really throwing each other down these stairs, like from a stunt choreographer, stunt part. Looking at it from the stunt side of things, it's like, how did no one die shooting this movie?
Yeah, it's crazy.
And then we're not even talking about the Okinawa scene, or are they in Okinawa? Oh man, I'm forgetting now.
In Japan, I forget
the
where.
The scene in Japan, where at the very beginning.
In the beginning, yeah.
And that sequence is like 30 minutes of the movie, just FYI.
It is, yeah.
Like, it's just
it's
one after another.
And
Donnie Yen comes in and kills a bunch of people while being blind, and it's just like, I just don't know if I've ever been more excited while watching a movie.
Yeah. Is there a better like blind kung fu guy than Donnie Yen? I don't think there is.
No, he's the best.
He's got the market cornered. Yeah.
If they remake Zatoichi, like he's gonna play that.
He's the only one.
The blind swordsman. So yeah, there's a great year for movies. Still got a lot of work to do to round out my list personally, but those are big highs for me. So
nice, thanks, Kyle. Jeff, what about you before we jump into our last?
I didn't see any movies.
Jeff didn't see any.
Well, when the year rolls over, his mind gets MIB'd because there's no way he can keep all these movies in his brain. So he has to data dump everything.
He does. I have to purge everything. That's why I'm rewatching things like Whiplash and stuff like that. So I can remember.
It's the first time I've seen this movie.
It's the first time I've seen this movie.
Palate cleanser.
Anyway, my number 10 is How to Blow Up a Pipeline. It's an instructional on how to blow. No, it's not. It's about this ragtag group of people that are blowing up a pipeline in their area because it's destroying their community for various reasons. And it kind of plays out like a heist movie. It's super stressful, very much a thriller. It reminded me of Sicario, like how tense I was in the theater watching it. It's very good. Number 9 is The Killer. Some of the best, like we've already talked about all the cool elements, but some of the best sound design I've heard all year. Like, I mean, the reason that fight works so well is because it sounds like they're distorting the shit out of the audio, and they're just like, woo, woo, like just really sounds like they're wailing on each other and stuff. The great thing about Netflix is that they release behind the scenes on a lot of their original movies and stuff, and one of them is about that fight scene. And it's just so informative. I highly recommend going and watching that featurette. It's like a 5-8 minute thing. And they talk about the choreography and like why it ended the way it did, and like the choices that they made with the sound design, all this stuff that went into it. It was super smart. I love that sequence. Love the movie. My number 8 is Dream Scenario. It's where everybody's dreaming of this guy. This guy right here.
God damn it. God damn. Is that a dream scenario? Is it?
Yeah.
Nick Cage, everybody. Yeah.
Everybody's like, I just love movies like this that like pontificate, like, I don't know, more abstract things about like it is about his characters in the movie are dreaming of Nicolas Cage's character, who's just like a nobody professor. He's done nothing to people. Why are they dreaming of him? It makes no sense. So like it's just the things that people are assigning meaning to their dreams, which dreams are just chaos. Like they're not chaos. They're not planned things that your brain does to you, you know, like
my
just
dream
happens.
Journal says differently, Jeff. Okay, so
you have to let your dreams be dreams, guys.
Yeah, don't let
true.
But
very
also
true.
Don't, according to Shia.
Don't let them be dreams.
Just do it.
Don't let your dreams be dreams. Yeah.
Do it. But yeah, the movie's great. So that's my number 8. Number 7 is Godzilla -1. Love the crap out of this movie.
Yeah, I gotta see this so bad.
It's easily my Top Gun Maverick of the year, meaning like seeing it in the theater was just like the coolest experience I had. Especially it was like a 3-sided theater. Like having that type of scope and perspective and stuff was really cool. And the spectacle of it was just unbelievable. Like, and the CG looks so good. This movie actually has a shot at getting some recognition for CG work. Thank goodness. Nice. Late entry, but it's awesome. Nice. And it's a very human story too. Like I actually gave a crap and like shed tears at the end of the movie. I did not expect that in this movie at all. So this would probably be my number 1 surprise too for the year if I were to surprise movies. But yeah, my number 6 is what Kyle already mentioned, Blackberry. He mentioned this one, and it is Glenn Howerton being Super Dennis. But it's God, it's just right. It just feels right, dude. It really does. I just love how I think it's one of the first scenes in the movie when he's meeting Jay Baruchel's character for the first time, and his friend, who's also the director of the movie. And like they're in the meeting, and Glenn Howerton's character is looking over paperwork, and somebody comes in to give him something. I can't remember what the context was. And the guy starts to talk to him a little more. And he's like, "Can you see him in the meeting?" And just the way that he looks at him in his Dennis stare, I was like, "This is Glenn Howerton Dennis, right?" And he's here to play. And he gets so shouty, and it's enjoyable. It's so much fun, and the script is so clever. My number 5 is a documentary. It's called 20 Days in Mariupol. It's in Ukraine. It's literally a documentary crew for 20 days straight following Russia invading this town. And it's super tense, dude. And there's some stuff that I never want to see again in my life. It's very harrowing. Number 4 is polar opposite, Across the Spider-Verse. I love the shit out of that movie so much.
I guess it's good or whatever, but
I guess it's good. I saw it in the theater like opening night. It was like almost sold out. This is like probably, aside from Barbie and Oppenheimer, the most sold out show I went to. yeah, just everybody's collective no at the to be continued was just so great. It's like, haha, y'all don't read headlines. I do.
But also anyone who was like remotely paying attention to how long it's been, and it was like, you're like, they're not gonna wrap.
Boy, they got a lot to wrap up here in the last 10 minutes.
I appreciated that they tried to make what's her name, Gwen Stacy.
Yeah, they gave her a full arc.
Yes, they tried to give somebody a full arc, so you felt some form of satisfaction.
I felt satisfied at the end.
I did too.
Okay.
I did too. Yeah.
I mean, it's the same. Like, I don't know. Like, I felt satisfied. It feels like it feels like Empire Strikes Back. You know, where it's like things end, but like the overarching story is like a to be continued.
Agreed.
You know?
Yeah. My number 3 is Poor Things. Emma Stone is just knocking out of the park. Mark Ruffalo in one of his best roles ever. I don't know out of that I've seen him this good. Maybe since Zodiac. No shade to his Hulk portrayal. It's just there's not a lot of depth there compared to his dramatic work.
I don't think anything's asked out of him in that role, to be honest.
Yeah, exactly. He's just like, I just need to phone it in as Bruce
He's
Banner.
cool. I like him a lot, but I don't know if he's,
but yeah, Willem Dafoe's great too as like the doctor, whatever the Dr. Frankenstein, I guess. He's like, it is a Frankenstein type of story, but there's a lot more depth to it. And it's certainly the most like gorgeous movie I've ever seen, maybe ever. Like the CG is just unbelievable, and you wouldn't expect a movie like this to have like CG, but it feels like a Terry Gilliam movie, like a
oh, there you go, my ears perked up.
But God, I'm trying to think. Like 12, I know he did 12 Monkeys. That's probably his most famous American one.
Like Time Bandits.
Yes, yeah, it's more like the more colorful Terry Gilliam type of movies. Like Imaginarium, even Imaginarium,
like low-key one of my favorite movies of all time. So
even like Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus, which has quite a few like set pieces and visual aesthetics. It's kind of going for that, and it's got some great costume design and stuff like that. Anyway, it's really funny too. One of the funniest movies of the year. Number 2 is John Wick Chapter 4. The action's okay or whatever. One of my favorite theater going experience. Not a sold out showing at all. Like I feel like I just chose the wrong theater maybe, but everybody was just like looking at each other without even knowing who each other are at all, and just being like, "Can you believe this shit?" Like we just could not believe the stuff that was happening on the screen. Yeah, my number 1 is Oppenheimer. I just love the crap out of this movie. This is it's Nolan's year, man. He's gonna finally get his flowers. I feel like from the Academy, and if
has
you
he
can't,
not gotten flowers?
Yep, nope. He has not won an Oscar yet.
Stop it.
Yeah, so for real, he has not. He has had the horrible timing of like releasing a movie at the same time as like something more Oscar baity. But this is like the most perfect Oscar bait movie.
It's
this
is
so perfect, and it's
there's
genuinely
scenes that
good.
are in black and white. Old dudes are gonna love this movie.
Oh my god, it's gonna fawn over. You got Robert Downey Jr. in there. People love him. Like I mean,
it's about old white guys making bombs. Old white guys are gonna love this.
And there's courtroom drama stuff in the third act. It's perfect. Like I mean. So yeah, I genuinely love it for all the reasons that it is Oscar bait. Like I think it's a good version of that. Very good. And the scene, the Trinity test is just unbelievable. Everybody was just like, you can hear a pin drop in my theater. Like it was just so crazy tense.
If it was something that felt impossible before, I came out of that movie loving Cillian Murphy more. I'm like, dang. That roof got raised even higher, than
he's great.
I'd already seen him, kind of like flex in like Peaky Blinders.
I've always loved him.
But yeah, exactly. But like, I didn't expect that either. Like, but like this role is so he's forced to kind of be, he has to be restrained in the face of all these politicians that are facing it and stuff. And
there's moments where he realized what he's done, and it's very visual, the performance, where you're like, okay, he somehow captured being completely and utterly and crippling haunted. By his creation.
that panic attack, I would describe it as a panic attack scene, but like where he's kind of envisioning what the victims look like, basically, as he's giving a speech. He's giving like a hurrah speech. We did it, guys. But as he's saying, I'm so proud of us, he's envisioning them getting swallowed by the radiation and stuff like that. And it's just so powerful, dude. It's so good. Oh my gosh, man. Yeah, it's so good. And the ending too with Einstein. It's just a great moment, dude. Like there's so many.
I just like the way it's edited too. Like you see that scene where he's talking to Einstein at the end throughout the entire movie.
Yeah.
And then you finally get like what that scene is when it's all done. You're like, oh man, Chris Nolan's a genius. I forgot. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's right.
Who knew the guy who made Memento knew how to edit a movie? Like
sure.
Oh, he can tell a story. Interesting.
Yeah,
I'm so hyped, dude. If this doesn't win Best Picture and it's something like Killers of the Flower Moon, which would have been like 11 or 12 for me, if that wins instead, I don't blame them at all. Like, it's a great movie too. But I do feel like this one has the closest shot at getting Chris Nolan like all of the awards that he wants, and Cillian Murphy too. He might win a freaking statue finally too.
I hope Barbie wins just so people's head explode.
I hope it wins some like.
Low-key, me too. I haven't even seen the movie, but like I'm like low-key just want it to win, so people are like,
remember the speech?
The chaos.
That would be funny.
Great.
Greta.
All right, guys, let's jump into our last category of this week, and that is Best Combat. We are going to have to do a shared list for this one. So, let's just jump right into it. So we've got our list of eligible games on the left. We'll move some things over to consideration, and then we'll do our best to rank a top 10 before the episode's over, before you all fall asleep on camera. We'll see if we can do that. All right. So, as you can see, of course, there's plenty of games to choose from. I think at one point, getting ready for this is probably several weeks ago, I tried to get rid of games that didn't have combat in it, but I'm sure I left a few, whatever. So anyway, we'll just start going in there. And why don't you, since last time we just kind of went through the list and named them, I ended up doing most of the naming. I know that was a little different because Jeff and I are the only ones who played a ton of the indie games, so that was a little different. But why don't we go back to the turn thing and see if that allows us to, I don't know. I like it when the list is a little bit more varied and we each get a voice in it as the list is being compiled. So this time we'll go in alphabetical order. So Dan, and then Jeff, and then Kyle, and then me. So Dan, you start first. What's a game you think needs to be considered for best combat?
Armored Core 6.
All right. Jeff?
I'm going to go with a dark horse early. I'm going to go with Hogwarts Legacy.
Okay.
Oh.
Great.
Kyle, what about you?
Like a Dragon, Gaiden. Man who erased his long name.
I'm going to bring Lies of P over. Dan, what about you?
Very P of you. Final Fantasy 16.
Yeah, buddy.
I guess people like that combat okay.
Yeah.
Jeff, what do you think?
This might be a long shot. I don't think a lot of people liked it, but Spider-Man 2.
Sure.
Oh,
sure.
Are we really going to let that happen?
Kyle's like, what did I miss? Was there a conversation?
I think people hated this combat, but like Spider-Man 2, I don't know. Maybe whatever. Whatever.
Kyle, what do you think?
Mortal Kombat 1. Oh no, Remnant 2.
Remnant 2.
Yeah.
Go. All right, I'm gonna bring over Star Wars Jedi Survivor.
Oh, duh, yeah.
Oh my god, I didn't even have that on my list.
Yeah.
Dan, what about you?
Scroll. Here.
See anything that jumps out at you?
Okay.
You're like, I didn't play any video games this year either. I'll go up to the top. We'll go up.
Actually, I actually like the Breath of the Wild / Tears of the Kingdom combat. I mean, we could throw that on there.
Yeah.
Very good.
I know some people think it's like, I don't know, maybe too simplistic
or
something.
Dan, don't even finish that sentence. They're wrong.
Yeah, they're wrong. I mean, they're definitely wrong.
It's in my top 10. I'll tell you, it's not at the top. It's not even near the top.
It's in my 10 because of the combination, combining.
Yes.
Stuff,
Yeah, absolutely.
So good. Jeff, what about you?
Sea of Stars.
Sea of Stars. It's got great.
Sea of Stars.
Agreed. Kyle?
And I love the epic. We'll get to it.
I'm doing this half because it'll make people mad and half because I really believe it, but Starfield.
On my list too, man.
You're good. Get wrecked.
And I know it's not guys. Sorry, the year's over. It's an old game at this point. When you get powers in this game, like it changes the entire way that you engage.
I agree with you so much. You're going to be surprised some of the games I have this ranked over. It was one of my favorite combat experiences of the year.
I'll see you at the top 5, Tim.
I cannot wait. I love the combat in that game.
I absolutely loved it. And then you add jetpack on. We'll get there.
Believe me, we'll get to it. Let me bring Convergence over. That combat is so good.
Yeah, I have Convergence very high.
Cool.
So fun. Great combat. What do you got, Dan? Anything else let me go back to the top. We'll kind of work our way down. Anything else that jumps out at you? And if not, it's okay. We can I've got my list. I can start calling out ones that we haven't brought over. I'm going to bring over Baldur's Gate 3. It's not in my personal top 10, but some people love this combat, and it's at least worth highlighting.
I think it's more about the freedom of the combat And we'll get there later, as I'm probably trying to defend it. But yeah, there's some things I have to say about that one for
Absolutely. Sure. Yeah. There's a reason why it's like a 10 out of 10 for most people. Dan, you got anything?
Just trying to, as you were scrolling along.
Call of Duty has combat.
Yeah, true.
Crime Boss Rockay City.
Crime Boss
right?
Rockay City. I like how you mentioned those two back to back, Call of Duty and Rockay City.
They're about the same quality.
Dead Island. I mean, you played that one, Dan?
You say Dead Island, even though it is super simplistic, but like again, there is like a fun factor to that simplicity, you know.
I think you brought it up earlier. When you're drop kicking somebody, there's few things in games that feel as good as that. So
yeah, so exactly. It really feels good.
Hey, none of us played Crash Team Rumble, but I think the combat in that's pretty fun, from what I've heard.
Yeah, there you go, Gaston.
You're welcome.
We're gonna put it in the honorable. We're gonna put it in the honorable mention list, just for Gaston.
Actually, can you? Let's move it back over.
Let's move it back over. Actually, you know what? Let's delete it. I'm just kidding.
No, that's awesome.
I'm gonna leave it in honorable mention just so it's technically there. Jeff, anything else that you've got? What about Diablo 4?
Yes, that.
I like the combat
because I think the build is definitely part. It's not just I'm just holding a button. Like
agreed.
There's like the build stuff that goes into the combat for sure.
Yeah, it's 90% build. Yeah.
El Paso elsewhere combat looks fun.
It is fun. Yeah, I don't know if it's gonna make it anywhere, but we can move it over just because.
Just so it's
slow motion stuff.
There's something a little maybe a little too retro about it. But it is fun. Yeah.
What about Fate Samurai?
Very good combat system. Yeah, put that over. Yeah, I won't fight for it at all. But hats off to that game.
I like it. What do you think, Jeff?
I don't know anything about that.
About anything else though?
Oh, Hi-Fi Rush.
It's on my list. I love that combat.
On the list.
It's on the list.
It's on the list. It's on the list, Jerry. All right. I don't know why I suddenly went into shitty George.
Guys, Forspoken combat, I've heard it's pretty fun.
Nope. No.
He's noping it. Shooting it down.
I think that's probably one of the stronger elements of the game, but no.
I'm standing firm on that not coming over.
Fire Emblem Engage combat is a blast. I love it.
I have so much fun with that. Yeah.
I agree. Yeah.
It might be their best version of their system. It's not new, but it might be the best version of their
I think that they've streamlined it in ways that don't make it feel lighter. So
yeah, it's really, really good. Ghost Runners 2 is fun, but I barely played it. I just played that little demo they had out for a little while. I'm not sure if they still have it. But
I wanted to play the motorcycle sequences in that game. That's the thing that caught my eye the most.
Yeah. Honkai Star Rail? Anybody play that?
I mean, it's cool that it's a free-to-play game with like a unique combat system, but that's not worth like.
Okay.
Although Infinity's trash.
Hey guys, I played about an hour and a half of Immortals of Avium today, and that combat super fun. So at least needs to be mentioned.
It is. Thank you. Yes.
Is the game great? We can talk about that in a different episode. But the combat, like I got through all the tutorial stuff and got into the actual game, and I was just like, hey, you know what? Switching around between these different powers, this is actually really fun. Like they did a good job with that.
I like that element of it. I don't know if I want to play like 10 hours of that, but I did like that element of it.
Agree. Yeah. So it's at least like, hey, let's flag it as like this was good. I don't think it's going to make our top 10.
But Jusant, I punched a lot of rocks in those mountains.
You did not. You did not do that. I don't know. I should have removed that one from there. This is obviously I didn't remove. I kind of skimmed through, as you can see, a lot of these that are left in here. Let's see. Minecraft Legends.
Bring over Mortal Kombat 1 because I do think that the combat is really great.
I guess it's a fighting game. So that
I guess we should bring over
Octopath Traveler 2.
Yeah, Octopath. I love the combat in that.
Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl 2 is a 9 out of 10. I've heard.
Yeah, it's better than Spider-Man 2. So we should obviously bring that over.
Payday 3, is that combat any fun? Is it good?
I wouldn't bring it over as a celebration of what that game is. No.
Okay.
I think it's in the combat.
Tactica?
Persona 5 Tactica, I think we should at least bring it over.
That's a good one.
Okay.
RoboCop Rogue City is fun. It's the same reason for Immortals. It's for same reason as Immortals of Avium. I would move it over just because it's fun for like 2 hours. Like it's really fun.
Yeah, I've seen many videos of people like throwing people through stained glass windows like on high rises, and it does look fun.
Skull Island Rising
And let's go ahead and make it the biggest text.
All right, I love it.
Yeah. Talk about.
All right, we're gonna bring that back
Font
down.
size.
All right. Enough joking around.
What is this?
Now that one you can delete, brother.
Actually, probably could. No one would notice.
I guess Street Fighter 6. We should
Street Fighter 6. Yeah.
Of course. Okay.
What else do I have? Oh, Bolt Gun. I have Bolt Gun on there.
Hey, Lamplighters League Combat. We're not going to bring it over because I don't want to really talk about it. But I will say this: that game got unfairly. I feel bad that the development team already got essentially dismantled and let go. Like that team's already pretty much gone because it didn't sell super well. That game's not bad.
They didn't even wait.
It's like a it's
It was
like
2 months, and they were like, okay, we're done here.
XCOM game set during kind of like that Sky Captain and the World of Tomorrow type of vibes in it. And I thought it was fine. It was good, but anyway, it's kind of a bummer to see a team fall apart so quickly after a game releases. It's just
absolutely.
I know none of us played the Legends of Heroes Trails series because all of us hate JRPGs apparently.
We do, yeah.
But
yeah.
how dare they put out 2 RPGs in 1 year?
Yeah.
Like, can you guys chill? Like, no wonder no one gets to your games. You put out 100 of these things, and none of us can catch up. You know?
No respect for our time. Hey, Mage Seeker Combat is so cool.
Absolutely.
So cool. Okay, Trinity Fusion is really
Thirsty
good.
Suitors has some really funny combat.
Really?
I will say that. Yes. There's some really funny summons. You get to summon your mom to come and
all right, I'm moving it over just for
and
that.
shout at your opponent. It's and to ruin their like esteem basically. It's really funny.
Sure.
I did play Vengeful Guardian early in the year. It is pretty fun, kind of old school Ninja Gaiden style game. Wanted Dead.
I actually really like Wanted Dead's combat, but like I know people hated that game, so it's a big bull or whatever for me.
I won't fight for Wargroove 2, but like I said earlier about this game, it is a really fun strategy game. Hey, Bolt Gun was super fun combat.
Sure. Yeah, you got Turbo Overkill on there too.
Turbo. Oh, where is that one? There it is. Yes. Both of those have amazing combat. Wild Hearts combat's great.
I've heard.
Really solid new IP, of course.
Long feels. I mean, I didn't play the actual release. I played the beta or whatever, but it felt good. Like that felt like good combat.
Great. Now, none of us are like Wolong pros. We didn't play it a ton, but it's worth at least highlighting their combat system is.
I will say of really all the Souls-like games I've played recently, this is the one that I liked the least in terms of its feel. Like Liza P, I felt like it controlled a little better. You know, like
I agree with that. I like Liza P combat way better than Wolong. I agree with that.
I really liked the worldless combat because it's turn-based, but it's in like a timed meter. Like you have like a few seconds to make your move, and you just mash buttons.
It didn't play at all like I thought it would when I saw the style of game. I was like, oh, it's probably just like you hit X or whatever button on controller you're using. Hit X for your basic attack, and then you hit triangle for, you know what I mean? Like the idea of like what your weak and strong attacks are, it's not that. It's very different from that.
I thought it was really smartly put together. Did we move over AEW Fight Forever?
Let's see. Let's go back to the top.
I feel like I got to shout out that combat. Yeah,
let's move that one over.
Because not only does it feel retro, but they added that whole battle royale mode, which is a different way to play the wrestling. Like it's totally more arcadey and more like a fighting game than a wrestling game.
I'm gonna put Alan Wake 2 there. It's not one of the best 10 combat systems of the year, but it is really good, especially towards the end. It's weak at the beginning. I actually thought to the point of like, I just wish I didn't have to fight anything. But as you go on, you unlock more stuff. It is more fun, and they do some creative things. So I don't think it's going to make top 10, but Assassin's Creed Mirage combat is the worst AC combat in a while because I'm very used to their new systems. With Odyssey, Valhalla, Origins, great combat systems. They really upgraded what you could do in Assassin's Creed. And Mirage felt like a step back to when combat was the last thing you want to do. It's really, really not good open combat. Their assassinating stuff is fun, and the sneaking around is good. Combat, not good.
Yeah, I got annoyed every time like I got found. I would just be like, ugh, now I have to engage with the combat system in this
Whereas
game.
the last 3 Assassin's Creed
I'd just be like, restart checkpoint.
I was like, let me get into a fight here. I just unlocked this cool like
Valhalla was like, can I just go up to them and like fight them? I don't want to do any of the sneaking. Avatar was really good for the type of bow and arrow. I know you can use guns too, but I like the combat in that game.
Bayonetta Origins combat was creative.
Yeah.
That
I think of that as more of like a puzzle game for some reason.
It's puzzly combat for sure.
Yeah. Blasphemous 2, I guess. I don't.
Yeah.
We didn't play it enough, but we should just definitely mention it because a lot of people love that game.
Okay, I think we're getting close to the end. Some of these other games that we haven't brought over, of course, some of them have combat in them, and either we're just like, I'm not gonna like the Dave the Diver. Yes, you technically fight sharks and stuff. There's boss fights in that game. It's not good combat. It's not what it's about. I know, Kyle, you loved Everspace 2 with your quick reviews. You did that one time. You loved that game.
Yeah. That and Exoprimal are just two real memorable games.
They're way up there. Yeah. right, I think that's
Gumbrella's kind of cool in the combat department, but it's not worth bringing over. I just didn't. Maybe I just didn't play enough of it. But
Yeah.
The school shooter part in Goodbye Volcano High is just crazy. So.
Oh my god!
Sorry.
Jeez.
No, that was
I did in Forza Motorsport. I would race some people that would deliberately cause penalties, and I would go find where they live and fight them. So there's combat there.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah,
that's good. I played a little bit of Hunt the Night. Not enough to fight for it though. But it was a cool retro style kind of isometric action game.
What about those
Infinity Strash?
The garlic. What about the garlic likes? We already made that joke. You missed it.
So I'm gonna add in
Death Must Die and whatever the other one was. I forget.
Death Must Die. I'll tell you why it's at least worthy of a mention, just because it changes up the garlic like style a bit, which I thought was really cool. All right, I think we're good on our consideration list here. Last chance.
A healthy one. I did not expect it to be so varied. I like it.
Last chance to add something in. Anybody? We got a good number here to work through. Okay. All right. So
a lot of games.
A lot of video games.
Yeah, it's okay.
A lot of video games. Hey, do any of you have like for your personal taste? This is like a darling of mine, and it's got to be on my top 10 somewhere. Do you have one of those? Of any of these?
Hogwarts Legacy. That's like really high for me.
It's number 2 for
Final
me.
Fantasy 16.
Yeah, 16 and Spider-Man 2 are very high for me as well.
I gotta shrink this down a little bit. Hang on.
No.
Like a Dragon Gaiden is a
shrinkage.
You have rocket shoes, guys. All right.
I mean,
and you have
around
like
the whole
lasso thing. You have a lasso of truth, but it's not that. But
you have a Spider-Man lasso that comes out of your watch.
Lasso,
it's a Spider-Man. It's a web shooting thing.
Isn't it in your watch?
You whip and you have rocket shoes.
All right,
I'm here for that.
Resizing the cells. Did you guys? These three? Was there another one mentioned that I missed?
Spider-Man 2. I mentioned that one.
Spider-Man
2 is a must. Yeah.
Spiderman.
Jedi Survivor. I feel like would be insane not to have him.
I was
my
an
number
idiot
one.
And totally forgot this one on my list, and I was like, God dang it! It ruined my top 5 now. Like it's crazy.
Yeah.
Star Wars.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah. You forgot it came out this year, didn't you?
It was like a February. Whatever. Get off me. It came out early.
If you can't find one
February and
fighting
April
style in this game
month.
that you like I'm convinced you just don't like games with combat in them.
Yeah, exactly.
Agree.
There's so much variety in that game.
Yeah, especially how much they evolved with like the different stances. Oh my God, there's so many extra stances in this game.
Oh yeah,
and Dan's gonna love it. I'm so stoked for him to play it.
I'd like to suggest, since we are an Xbox podcast, that Starfield needs to be on this top 10.
I'm all the way with you, dude.
And I'm joking about the Xbox podcast, but I'm not joking that it is in my top 10. It's actually, it's number 6 on my list. It's one of my favorites. So it's got, it's at least in this list of maybe.
The combat really does like evolve.
I think it's
more options later.
So I think the shooting was good out of the gate. I thought it was good.
Yeah,
and then as you get more guns, you start to mod your guns and really map it to your play style, in addition to your abilities that you unlock. And then you get these powers. So it's a combination of all those things that by the end, I was seeking out confrontation with enemies because the fighting was so fun. I just had such a blast.
Wow.
I know it's hit or miss for a lot of people, but like as you get used to the spaceship combat, that becomes really
that was a
fun
blast too.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like when you start realizing, I can just use boosters on one side of my ship to like flip around real quick and like do all these crazy maneuvers. Like
you just have to get a better ship. Your starter ship is not the way to
sucks.
learn. Like if you're like, that's all I played with, and the space combat sucks. It's like, no, that ship sucks. Get a really good ship. And you can there's all kinds of great quest lines to get awesome ships that can carry you through the rest of the game. Anyway, so it's at least to me worth fighting for somewhere on the list.
I'm gonna fight for it.
I mean, y'all are selling me kind of like with the Tears of the Kingdom music. Y'all are selling me on it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's so good.
That sounds awesome.
To what degree would you guys consider something like Hi-Fi Rush? Because of the way it incorporates music and the beat and the timing of the hits. I just think for me, it's more of, hey, it's not that they do anything crazy new with like weak hit versus strong hit and these combos. It's about the incorporation of the rhythm and being able to do extra damage and all the.
When I think of the combat in that game, the only thing that comes to mind is unique. And I feel like because of that alone, it should probably be over. Creative, fresh. Maybe all the ingredients aren't fresh, but the way they're mixed in together is. I don't think I've ever.
I'll agree with that. Yeah,
I went back and played it a little bit, and I was like, man, I love this game. Is so fun to play.
Yeah.
So I have it on, and it's actually in my top 5. I loved the combat in this, and it's not because the combat is tough. Yeah. It's because it's so unique and creative, like you're saying. So I think it's worth considering. And it might not make it. That's fine. Let's think about the turn-based stuff real quick. When you consider stuff like Fire Emblem, Octopath, Sea of Stars, they all do their, of course. I'm not saying we have to pick one of those 3. I'm just curious. Those are like the main turn-based ones we have here, right?
Right. I didn't even consider. That's Fire Emblem is another one I forgot, but that one I probably like the turn-based one in that nature of that combat better than Octopath. Now that I'm thinking about it.
Well, the thing with Octopath 2 as well, it's very similar, if not basically the same as the first one, right?
Yeah, so, there's only like
there's some improvements.
There's
but
some minor things.
Yeah. Same with Fire Emblem, though. But... To be fair,
to be fair, same with Fire Emblem.
Yeah. So, in the Sea of Stars, I think I'd like to see that one fight for a spot, whether it makes it or not, whatever. And I haven't played it enough. You guys played it more than I have, so it's not on my personal top 10 list.
It's in my like top 5 or 6. Like I have it pretty high. Like I love
some really cool things that connects to old school games.
Yeah, and you guys didn't get to the ultimates yet.
I didn't.
I don't think so. When you get unlock those ultimates, it's like so gratifying. It's so good.
It's not even so much the basic attacks; it's your special, like the one that the man, I can't even remember everyone's name in that game, but the girl, the blue-haired girl, the one where she's deflecting the stuff off of each enemy, and you're having to time that, like, it just becomes like a little mini.
And the timing changes based on where they're placed in a little battlefield.
Oh, sure,
it does,
yeah. And it's building up speed too.
I got an achievement for 25 hits, apparently. Yeah, I got an achievement for that one. That one was incredibly hard, though. That was just sheer luck. I was just in the right mode, I guess. I don't know. But I love that. I think she's not the only one that does that. Somebody else has like a teleport and throws a dagger, and that one is timed as well.
The timing of all that is really fun and tricky.
I'm going to grab a few of these and move them up so they're out of the way. But Wild Hearts, Wolong, Worldless all do really cool things in their respective genres, but none of us are going to push. I mean, we already have 8, and we're going to add more over. I just don't think they're going to be pushed into that top 10. So I'm going to grab them and move them up. Same with Alan Wake 2. I like that combat a lot, but that's not what makes the game great. But they do some cool stuff with it, though. I will say that.
I do like that. I do like using the light to like break shields, and then using a gun, and you get a lot of other throwables like that. I like it. Yeah, I
like it a lot. Is it top 10? It's not even in my top 10, so I can't tell you guys.
Dan, what do you feel? You and I are, I think, the only ones who played Armored Core 6. Like that won Game Awards Best Combat. Like, are you
action or whatever
feeling good, or action rather? Yeah,
which is kind of the same.
How are you feeling about that? Like, I think it is. I think the combat is definitely the best thing about that game. But how what's your fighting levels for it, I guess?
So I don't know if you guys remember, but I actually literally traded it in because I was so goddamn furious about how hard that game is.
Yeah.
So hard. And I mean, I've played all the Souls games, or pretty much all of them, and I've beaten them. Like, that one, I hit a wall, and I was just like, F this thing, I can't do it. But the combat is phenomenal. And the amount of depth, because they're mechs, so you're literally changing all these individual pieces, and literally just changing the legs makes it so you're gliding in a certain way, or you're faster and slower, and like all these things. Like, the amount of depth in the combat based off of like the customization and then how that works in the mission that you're in is just crazy and very integral to the whole thing. So yeah, I would say it definitely. I feel like it absolutely needs to be in there, but also
I think it needs to fight for a spot, possibly.
It needs to earn its spot.
You've got me convinced just with those descriptions there, and it's pretty responsive too, right? Like it's really.
It's one of the most responsive games. Like it's like when you die, it's never the controller's fault. It's because you suck at that game. So
I mean, I'm
saying
the
that as someone who
sucks
at that game in a big way. So
that's a lot of those Souls-like games, man. Like that FromSoft makes, at least. Like, yeah, it's that same feeling.
Oh yeah, it's like they're good at that or something. It's crazy. How wild.
Avatar up here. It's not going to be on our top 10, but hey, it's a fun game when it comes to bow and arrow combat. They do a good job with it overall.
Have you guys considered Avatar?
Same with Blasphemous 2. I'm gonna move Blasphemous 2 up here.
Yeah.
Jeff, what about AEW?
Yeah, you can move that up.
But hey, it's a fun throwback to N64 days of wrestling games.
And not only that, they added that whole like battle royale mode that is totally not like any other
Whack.
wrestling game. Yeah, it's just so stupid. The stuff that you're grabbing and you're riding a horse around or a golf cart around. It's so dumb. I love it.
So Death Must Die does not belong on the top 10 of best combat, but I'll say this: when it comes to Garlic Likes, it's the first one that not only does everything else well, the progression, all the different characters and everything, it does that really well. But it also gives you direct control over your character if you want it. You can have everything on auto attack, and you can also just hit the button to swing if you want. So I just think they do some cool things with the combat in that Vampire Survivor style. But that doesn't belong on the top 10.
You can move Fate Samurai Remnant off. It's fun, but
okay.
You know, it's a
can be hard to fight over here. Okay.
Yeah.
Crash Team Rumble, Gaston, it did a good job of sticking around for a little bit, but that's not one of the top 10 combat games for us this year.
You're welcome. You're welcome, Gaston. You're welcome.
But it's in the honorable mention list. What about Dead Island 2 as well? Stay over here.
Probably not gonna win.
Yeah, no, that's
Tyrants.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. What about Diablo 4, you guys? I only played it a little bit. You guys all played it more than I did. Is that one of the best combat systems of the year?
If we move it over, it's gonna have to earn its spot, I would say.
Okay.
Yeah,
I don't think it's a shoe in to a top 10 by any means. I for me it is, but like there are other games that I want to champion that we haven't even moved over yet. So
okay.
Yeah.
And so if it does come over, like it's gotta fight ahead.
We'll circle back to it then. Okay. Is it okay to leave Immortals of Avium over here and just say, hey, it's a really cool magic kind of shooter? It's a magic shooter, is how I describe it.
Magic shooter. Yeah, and each magic is like one's a shotgun magic, and then one's like pistol, one's SMG magic. Yeah, so there's magic guns basically, but you're using your hands and you're doing this.
Magic guns.
I actually do think that Lies of P is deserving of a spot on our top 10. I know that if our buddy Derek were here, he'd be mad at us for not already moving it over. But I can at least
mad at us for not moving Lords of the Fallen over either. But you know, such is life.
Is that even available over here?
It was. I saw it and never said anything because I didn't want to even acknowledge it.
Well, you just did. Too late.
Yeah, that's true.
I think it deserves a spot on there, but like after hearing you guys talk about Armored Core 6, 2 of you have played Armored Core 6 and love it. I haven't played it, but I played enough of Lies of P. Probably, I forget what my count on the hours. Probably 15 hours or so. Like a good chunk of that game. I think that combat is as good as a Souls game's been that hasn't been made by FromSoft. It's so good. It's very responsive. They make the upgrades feel real. Your new equipment, like they do a great job with it. But it's a frustrating and difficult Souls game for a lot of folks. So it's not gonna click for everybody. So I'm not willing to like give up on it quite yet, but let me just see what else is said.
I'm torn by a lot that are still in consideration. This really sucks. This category is way harder than I thought it would be.
Yep.
Mortal Kombat you can move off. It's a good fighting game. Street Fighter as well. None of us are big fighting game fans here, you know.
I mean, I enjoyed the storyline of
Same here. Yeah. And again, that's another thing where I'm weirdly became like the fighting game podcast guy, and I'm like, I don't even really care. Like,
you're like, I'm not even
like it so much less.
That's what it is. I'm with you. All right, so let's move these up just so we can see them together. Okay. We haven't really talked about.
This is rough.
For Persona, I feel like any of the other RPGs I would want to champion more than that one, even though I really like that combat. But if it's coming down to like Fire Emblem Engage or like Octopath Traveler, like I would, or even Sea of Stars, like it becomes fourth in that line to me. So
yeah, same here. And I do like that play style for that.
I think it's so awesome. Yeah.
Thirsty Suitors can stay over here, Jeff, you think?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's just a fun shout out.
I'm going to say the same for Trinity Fusion. Good shout out for that game, but none of us have played it enough to champion it. It was very Dead Cells-like in a lot of ways, so I do recommend it.
Yeah, it is. It's the closest you can get, I guess, I'm sure there's other games that have come out since Dead Cells, but like it does feel really good, the combat.
We'll leave Turbo Overkill over here too. Again, it's a victim of only having one person having played it, but it's super fun, fast-paced shooter. Looking at what do you guys think about Bolt Gun? Maybe one of the better shooters of all these games that I'm seeing on my screen here.
And let me say something I don't mean right now. It's just Doom.
I hear what you're saying. Sure. I do hear what you're saying.
Yeah. Let me just say something.
I don't mean it, but like if we're trying to make hard decisions,
I do like that's a good Kyle quote right there. Let me just say something.
Warhammer Dune sounds cool though.
People that play like COD and games like this are losing their minds right now if they're hearing this. Like,
yeah, I know.
Just stop playing shooters.
Yeah. I'll fall on the sword. I'll be the most hated person on the podcast.
Guys, does El Paso Elsewhere make the cut after what we've heard so far?
Okay.
Put it elsewhere.
That was always meant to be an honorable mention for sure.
Yeah, just a little tip of the hat.
And real quick, just Jeff, you and I probably between Convergence and Mage Seeker, if we're going to try to get one on there, we try to get Convergence on there.
Yeah,
right?
that one's more kinetic, fast-paced, and forces you to think with combos, and Mage Seeker is a little more... That's definitely more difficult, and I don't know.
I don't know that either one of them will necessarily make it, but...
RoboCop was just a shout-out as well, yeah.
Okay. So maybe Bolt Gun stays up there with Rogue City as well?
Yeah.
It's just Doom, guys.
Hey guys, it's literally just Doom.
Which I mean is a compliment, right? So.
Yeah, I mean I'm just
really
saying
good.
It. I'm just saying that.
Yeah.
I'm adding no context to it. Everyone gets to add their own context.
Kyle, I'm looking at these last. We haven't mentioned these yet. When you think about
gosh.
stuff like Remnant and Tears of the Kingdom,
I know that Remnant 2 I've only played, but I will say, and this is gonna piss off everybody, it is absolutely the best Souls-like game that came out this year. And I think it's the best third-person shooter I've played in a long time. I think
it's hard to leave it off the list.
Are absolutely outstanding.
That's the one I'm most on the fence about, because I loved Convergence more, but I'm thinking about all the options you have at your disposal on Remnant. Like
you do have a lot of classes. You unlock a lot of classes. Every class, you unlock them just by playing the game or by finding them in the environments. There are a lot of different ways to be multi-class. I put a lot of points in a lot of different classes. It is very stats driven, just like any other Souls game or whatever. And when you add in some of the most unique, I fought, I'm telling you, in my top 3 favorite boss fights in the history of gaming in this game, and that's only because of how unique the boss fight was and how good the combat was. So I know it's got a long climb to get it on a 10, but I am gonna fight for that one pretty hard. So
all right, so I'd have a hard time, at least not yet, saying bye to Tears of the Kingdom's combat. And here, the main reason is because I can't remember a game where I've used a wider variety of things from my inventory and combined things and all the different shields and weapon types and combos of things. And then by the time you get to the final boss fight, and even all the different dungeon bosses that you fight, I was using so many different combinations of things and things in the world that they give you to build. So for me,
I agree.
I love that combat. Now, if I'm just looking at pure core combat, I think a game like Lies of P or what you're saying about Remnant 2, at its core, those have more solid combat systems when it comes to hitting a button and a sword is swung or jumping or whatever. It's not as good in those categories. It's just a very creative use of combat. But Zelda games aren't necessarily known for their combat, so I totally get that Tears of the Kingdom combat doesn't click for everyone.
I take umbrage with that statement because literally all of Dark Souls and Souls-like games are based and built off of the Zelda combat.
That's so true.
Sure. I don't connect with that at all, to be honest.
Yeah, I've always actually liked even going back to Ocarina of Time. Something as simple, which was so creative at the time, using the shield to bounce an energy beam or energy ball.
Sidestepping while Z targeting with your shield.
The Z targeting was huge.
This series created that. We are here where we are today because of the things that Zelda did for the combat, the combat in the industry,
Sorry, I was thinking the shield, but it's the sword. You're hitting an energy ball back and forth with the sword like frickin' tennis.
The mirror shield would knock stuff back though. Yeah.
Okay, sure, yeah.
Well, and now of course you've got the parry system that they added in, which is awesome. And now the slow-mo when you pull the bow out to go shoot things, there's slow-mo elements there,
which feels fantastic when you're in the
air, vaulting or off your mount or whatever, and going into slow-mo and pull. Yeah, it's pretty.
So
pretty epic.
I was fighting a underground Lionel, which are pretty tough enemies if you haven't played that game, and it was the dark version of one of those. It was covered in that gunk. I forget what it's called off the top of my head. But it was a really tough one. And so I did all these combinations of launching myself up, and I would attach a rocket to my shield, launch myself up in the air, throw these puff mushrooms down so he lost sight of me. And then I could sneak behind him and jump on his back and then hit him a ton of times. And then he would knock me off. And I would do some other combination. As I'm thinking through what I had to do in those games to be successful, I'm like, man, that combat really brought it out of me. I loved it. I loved fighting in that game.
You just have so many tools at your disposal, especially in Tears of the Kingdom.
Yes. Yeah. So I don't know. Okay. Before we either officially decide.
Baldur's Gate 3 and Diablo 4 ain't making it over at this rate.
I think where there's too many other cheerleaders for too many other games. Yeah.
Kyle, you were gonna say something about Baldur's Gate 3 though.
Yeah, I mean, just the freedom again, like just having so much freedom to do whatever you want, and I think there's just so much like there's so much weight to that, you know. Just again, like I don't want to fight this guy. I'm just gonna shove him off a cliff. Yeah. I don't want to go through this whole thing where he hits me and I'm just gonna shove him. I got high athleticism. It's gonna pass this roll, you know, so it's gonna be fine. And I feel like there's so many other things too that like, hey, I'm gonna drop I'm gonna break this oil barrel and then I'm gonna use my mage to like set that on fire and yada yada. It's just there's so many things you can do in this game, but like ultimately it's not things that haven't been done in CRPGs before. Ultimately,
okay, fair. I will say this: in that first Goblin Cave, one of the early kind of dungeons you go through in Baldur's Gate 3, I did push. I don't think it was a boss, but it was definitely a main enemy. I pushed him down into the cave with the spiders, and they killed him for me over the course of like 3 turns.
It's amazing.
And I just healed up and waited because I killed everyone else, and he was a challenge. Like at the level I was at, I was having a hard time with him. So he was by the edge, and then it took me like 2 tries. I think it took 2, maybe 3 tries because characters failed on the push or whatever. But they finally got him off the edge, and then I just kind of watched as he got killed by this giant spider.
That's just fun.
And that combat system pushes right back at you because I have been shoved off of cliffs in the middle of fights and instantly died where I'm like, what the, you know, like, so, I don't know. There is a give and a take there, but ultimately, like if we're talking, if something needs to give way to uniqueness, I don't know if there's a lot of uniqueness in Baldur's Gate 3.
I mean, there is and there isn't. It depends on your creativity, I suppose.
There is and there isn't. Yeah, you bring in the uniqueness factor.
I guess that's true of Tears of the Kingdom too. Now that we're talking about, like it depends on your.
It's true.
When you have a lot at your disposal.
I don't know if there's another game that's ever come out that gives you like that many tools, though. You know, where it's like I'm gonna take this one thing and it can be 17 different things. You know.
I mean. It was like a few weeks into Tears of the Kingdom, and people were posting TikToks of building like mechs in Zelda. Yeah. Like they were literally building like mechs. Like it was insane. It was
is this combat best building? Is this a category best building? Oh, okay.
As a matter of fact, it is.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
we're building towards the
Zelda hater coming out to play.
I did like
DOODZ.
Doozy. I did take the advice of someone. There was a boss that you're fighting who keeps throwing this mud all over the floor that's only removed with water. So I was able to build like essentially a little sprinkler. And so you just did the copy and paste building and drop the sprinkler down, and it just spins and sprays water while you fight. And they can't put the muck down to slow you down.
I used that too on a boss.
Little things like that are just like, all right, and I just built it because I saw someone online had built one, and I was like, that's pretty smart because they had these little like fire hydrants that seemed useless unless you were in a specific dungeon where you needed to clear out the muck. So I had them. I didn't know what I needed them for, and all of a sudden this boss fight
seems like so much homework for a fight. I just want to fight a guy.
Let's change this
like
to
hearing you guys describe all this sounds
homework.
Really.
No, Jeff, you
really
learn
cool,
that and then you copy and paste it.
So
you basically download the information, then you just drop it whenever you want. So.
Yeah,
it's too complex, so it's bad combat. I hear you.
Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah, it's too complex.
There's just it's too cool. So
as opposed to Diablo 4, where I hit the same button for the hour and a half or so that I played that.
Yeah, game. I already said it's not going to move over.
Yeah, I would move that Diablo 4 off with just some of these other games that we're trying to.
By the way, but it's really good. There's a reason that Diablo 4 is like the foundation for so many games that have built their combat systems off of it.
It's the same thing as y'all were talking about with Zelda, where it's like it's the build stuff. Like, I mean, you just got to know how to build your character right for the combat to feel that fulfilling.
Okay. And keep in mind, like, I think these 5 are locks: Hogwarts, Final Fantasy 16, Like a Dragon, Spider-Man 2, Jedi Survivor. I mean, maybe all 9 of these are locks. And we're fighting over one spot.
That's where we're at. Yeah, it kind of sucks.
I don't know if Hi-Fi Rush is a lock. I could see us maybe arguing our way back out of that one.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's in the same realm as 16 for me, except the music part. So aside from that, if I like put that aside in my head, then it's like, all right, well, between these two, what am I choosing? I'm choosing.
Yeah, what's 16, the best Devil May Cry style combat of the year? You know, out of those two, it's probably.
I have Hi-Fi Rush like 4 spots above 16, and let me tell you why.
Yeah.
It's not because I don't like 16. 16's in my top 10. It's just towards the bottom. I think I have it just above Legend of Zelda. When I was thinking about which one did I.
We're all allowed to be wrong.
When I started, I have it above Legend of Zelda. It's fine. Relax.
The guy who doesn't like character action games doesn't get an opinion on this, Tim. Come on.
You know, can I just say that it warms my heart that you remember that about me, though? Can I just say that? Like, yeah. But yeah. So it was just repetitive. By the time I got to the end of Final Fantasy 16, it was a little more repetitive, and that's not a knock on it. I'm just trying to think of like what gives something else maybe the edge over it. That's why Hi-Fi Rush maybe also repetitive, but the songs were different and the enemies were changed. I don't know. There's something about it that was different. But with Final Fantasy 16, I felt like I was constantly doing the same pattern of like these attacks, this special, that refresh, now this special.
That also falls onto the element of using the different like abilities.
That's true.
If you get comfortable, and I do that too in these kind of games, but that to me is not a negative.
I did the same thing in Devil May Cry 5.
I would say that's a DNA of the franchise, but the franchise also gives you a lot of different ways to engage with that. But it's usually us, the user, who chooses
I did the same with Devil May Cry 5, and I didn't have
same. No, and I'm saying this as someone who connects to what you're saying, because like I'll get comfortable with something and I'll go, oh, these are my things, and then like I don't really play with the spear in Devil May Cry, or I don't play with this, you know.
That's exactly it.
But that's on us, kind of. You know, we're not showing up and engaging with the the full weapons case of the game. So
Yeah. So Hi-Fi Rush is maybe one that's going to be hard. Like I don't know, because I'm looking at these 6. We have Convergence, Fire Emblem, Lies of P, Octopath, Remnant, Tears of the Kingdom. There's been great cases made for all of those. I think Hi-Fi Rush actually probably belongs beside these, as like we have to figure out what belongs over here. I think Armored Core 6 and Starfield are in the list.
I feel like there have been really strong arguments for both. Like I've been convinced as somebody who I haven't played. I'm not going to play Armored Core.
Sea of Stars is in. I think
so. But Armored Core, I'm not going to play that game. I'm not going to play it at all. But I'm trusting what y'all are saying on that. And Starfield just sounds plain awesome based on what y'all are saying. So.
Is playing awesome. Everything about it. All of
everything.
I think for me, like having the options.
Xbox, let's calm down, guys.
That's fair.
I think having like a certain amount of options, you know, and sometimes you can have too many options, but like also how that sort of incorporates into the combat. Like, are these just a bunch of things that just exist just to give you the options, or is there actually uniqueness to all of it?
Or consequences? Like, so in Armored Core, like, yeah, you can give yourself like all the weapons, but like you're going to be a fat, slow, dumb robot, you know? So it's like
true.
There's a pushback, you know, to the so.
I will say this too. At the end of Legend of Zelda, have any of you beaten Legend of Zelda?
No, not yet.
No.
As you get to the,
I'm like
because it's too complex, right?
Into it.
It's too complex to beat. It's too complex to beat.
Yeah. There's too many
there
choices.
is I would describe it as like it's almost like having a mech, not as fast by any stretch,
sure,
compared to Armored Core 6, but there's almost a mech-like experience in the second to last, I guess you could call it dungeon, before you get to the final encounter where you have to work your way through this whole dungeon castle thing. Before you can do that, there's one final thing you do where it's almost like having a mech, and then that's with you for the rest of the game. Anytime you want to activate it, you're now on a mech that can attach whatever weapons you want to its 2 arms, and whether it's flamethrowers or a big spiked ball or what, like you all of a sudden can have this mech style combat that joins in. Now it's
interesting,
and you can attach a rocket to your back and do like super jumps with it, and it adds a whole new layer to it at the end of that game.
Yeah,
and it didn't need to do that. It didn't need to do that, but it did.
No, they didn't need to do a lot of things in that game, and they did.
And they did it. Yeah, they absolutely did it. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and say, even though it is in my personal top, it's my 3rd favorite combat system of the year.
Crap.
I think Lies of P, just because I'm the only one who's played it, and I didn't even finish that game, so it's hard to make a case for a game that I ended up giving up on just because I was like, I'm stuck on this boss. I don't feel like pushing through the Souls wall right now. I just wasn't in a place where I wanted to push. You guys know what I'm talking about. You've gotten to those Souls walls.
Sure.
Yeah, because
every
games are terrible. Those games are terrible.
One of those games I said, yes, I've hit that wall. Yeah.
So I'm going to leave Lies of P here, but it is with great regret because it is my third favorite.
I like how Jeff's thing is, well, it just evolves to, this is terrible.
Yeah, that's why those games are all terrible.
Yeah. Can I also suggest that Octopath stays here too? We've already got a turn-based.
Yeah, I think we have other turn-based things that maybe turned more heads.
Yeah. They were more based turns. If
they were more based on turning heads.
All right, Jeff, let's talk about Convergence real quick. Side-scrolling, super slick action combat with some great time tools too, where you can slow things down. And so, what do you think about that? What's your case for that one being on here?
I don't know, man. It's just the action is just so kinetic, and like you're saying, you kind of have to force. I ended up stuck on a boss, and you kind of told me like, "Oh, did you remember that you just got a new ability where you can like freeze time for a little bit?" And
slow down the time, man.
I'm an idiot. So pretty much, the game is forcing you. It's not like optional or whatever, where it's like, or like sometimes you get a new ability and you're like, no, I'm in my zone, like we're talking about. I'm in my zone. I'm not going to change the way I play. This game is like, no, you have to use the thing we just gave you, and you kind of forced to combo in interesting ways and ways that you really weren't planning to at all. Especially on like attempt number 6 on the same boss. So like, so there's definitely some difficulty there too. But like, I don't know, man. It's just a really good. This is like number 5 for me, but you're letting go Liza P. I totally understand I'm more compelled to move something like Remnant 2 over, just based on what I remember of the game and Kyle's description of it.
Yeah. I have it just.
This one's
below...
just like a really well-made action platformer.
It's the best side-scrolling combat of the year, in my opinion. If we had that as a separate thing,
I would agree with that.
Everything else we're talking about is 3D based, I think.
Right.
So it's the best kind of 2D side-scrolling combat. It does it as well as any other. There's probably a few exceptions. There's probably a few, like Dead Cells, I think is hard to beat. But like other than stuff like that, it's right up there with the best of them. But I don't know if it's on our top 10 combined. I have it just below things like Starfield, Final Fantasy 16, Tears of the Kingdom. I have all those above it.
Oh, okay.
Personally, even though
I have it at 5, but that's because I also left off some, and I haven't ranked my list. I accidentally left some off. Dang it.
Like Star Wars.
Star Wars, and then
so I think Convergence stays over here.
When Kyle mentioned and started talking about Remnant 2, I'm like, dang it, that should be in my list too. That combat is so good.
I feel like Dan, did you play Remnant 2 at all? I did not play it at all.
No, I didn't.
Okay, I played the first one.
I like what Kyle was saying though.
I do too. I feel like it deserves.
Guys,
like
y'all have to look up videos of this cube boss. It is out of this world. Like I've never experienced anything like it in a video game.
So we're down to one more spot. I think Remnant 2 is on the list.
Oh, it's literally a cube. I get it now. When you said cube,
sounds like it'd be a boring fight, huh? Like just a square. You're fighting a square, and it's
oh my gosh.
Hey, you also fight squares.
Never experienced anything like this in my entire life. It's just man, it just really.
So I think it's on the list, and when I'm taking into account everything we're talking about everything from like core responsiveness, like are the core elements of the game, does it respond well, does it feel right, like that combat feel, and the creativity, and do you feel powerful, and how's the upgrades? When you try to consider all the different pieces of what makes good combat, there's so many different moving pieces. I totally get that. Of these 3, I think Tears of the Kingdom,
I gotta be honest, I'm surprised it wasn't a lock from the beginning, but I've just been holding my tongue. So Dan, I really like, what do you feel about this game? Like, do you think that it's like Zelda? Is it some of the best combat you played all year? Is that like just a for sure thing in your head, or
no, it is for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, based on what y'all have said and what I know of the game, I feel like it does need to be moved over Hi-Fi Rush and Fire Emblem. We already talked about how turn-based.
Fire Emblem is phenomenal, but like, I don't know. I think if I'm talking about having fun with kind of a turn-based system, like Sea of Stars is the one that's like fun.
I agree with that.
Even though I know they're not the same. Don't come at me, RPG people.
They're the exact. They're literally identical.
I can't believe you compared a tactics game to an RPG. Don't come at me.
You know what? Don't come at me. I think that
get me on X. I'm definitely there.
Yeah, I'm definitely on X Twitter too.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm totally there, guys. Hit me up on there.
So that means that Hi-Fi Rush and Fire Emblem Engage, along with Convergence, Octopath, Liza P, Diablo 4, Baldur's Gate, and so on, a whole bunch of great combat systems that, just for the sake of space and trying to highlight, I think one of the things that I've noticed that we haven't said out loud, but I think all 4 of us value, is a good variety on our top 10 list. So it's kind of an unspoken thing where we're like, hey, we already have a game that's sort of like this on here, so let's just have
an RPG in. Let's get something turn-based.
So I like doing that. I like even though I've got Hi-Fi Rush and Liza P high on my personal list, I feel like there's already games that sort of represent that style, and I like making sure that we have like a Dragon Gaiden deserves to be on here, even though it's not my favorite game. I haven't played it really, but like it's a very different style of combat from some of these other things we're talking about. So anyway,
and it is purely just action. So
just action game, yeah. So in our top 10, if you're just listening, we've got Armored Core and Final Fantasy. This is alphabetical. Armored Core 6 and Final Fantasy 16 and Hogwarts, Like a Dragon Gaiden, Spider-Man 2, Remnant 2, Sea of Stars, Jedi Survivor, Starfield, and Tears of the Kingdom that we now have to rank. So,
may I be so bold to say that since Remnant 2 has only been played by really one person and Jeff, who got a little bit of it, like maybe that's probably at the lower end, if not 10.
Yeah, I played like 2 classes. Well, I played one that was like, he wasn't a sniper, but he definitely had a scope on him. Mm-hmm. And then I played the one with the dog, which I had way more success with. Way more success with that guy. But yeah, ultimately it was still like, oh, this is hard. So I talked myself out of playing other things. You know what I mean?
Yeah. There's a couple of them that I thought there was more than one that had really only one. So there's Like a Dragon, because Remnant 2 has a couple people that have played it at least, right? Two of you have played it?
Yeah.
Like a Dragon is truly only one. That's not a knock against it for our list. It could go higher. We haven't really talked about the combat though. So like where would you place this one, Kyle, when you think about some of your other faves on here? You've got some others that you love on here, Armored Core and Remnant and Starfield.
I would say that Like a Dragon's better than all of those games in terms of combat. For me.
Dang.
Yeah.
That's high praise.
That's
high.
I mean, this is a game who has the only thing that maybe a knock against it is that its combat has kind of been similar, since the beginning. But it's a focus and a culmination, if you will, of all the ideas they've ever had.
You say culmination?
That's right, I did, yeah. And it is purely combat. Like it is a brawler. You know what I mean? Like it is what the game is. When you're not doing all the soap opera bullshit. With all the cutscenes, you are fighting 30 dudes with your bare fists and rocket blading around on your spy shoes, and like it's very fast, it's very punchy. You have multiple different fighting styles. Like it is a combat action game. That's what it is,
Man, these Like a Dragon games. I did see someone just post recently, by the way. They said, I'm never skipping a cutscene again. And it showed the guy from what was the most popular Like a Dragon that came out that kind of launched?
Zero?
The more recent
7.
Oh, 7,
it was the more recent one that just kind of blew it up into the what was that one called?
7,
it was 7.
Yeah, it was like just Like a Dragon.
And so someone's and there was this just funny meme of them saying I'm never skipping a cutscene again. It shows him walk into the room and there's a gun pointed right at his head and he's going like this. And then they apparently skip, and it shows them like sitting in a go-kart in the middle of a city getting ready to start a race. And they're like, I'm never skipping a cutscene again.
What?
I've totally seen that.
A lot happened.
It's a real funny one.
So yeah, I mean, if it ends up being on the lower end of the list, that's fine and dandy and everything, just due to exposure. But just I got my piece out that it is like, lists like this are built around games like this.
Yeah. So we're in a weird spot with stuff like Armored Core and Remnant, trying to figure out where those go, because you've got Kyle and Dan on one, Kyle and Jeff on the other, Tim on none, because Tim sucks, I guess. Tim's only playing Valheim over and over again. So yeah, like where do we think those land? Is Remnant at the bottom, and then you've got stuff like Armored Core and a few others like working their way up? Or does the Armored Core, does that need to be at the top?
Kyle, did you finish Armored Core?
No, absolutely not. No,
Armored Core's at the bottom. F you, make an easier game.
Well, I was gonna say then. I mean, even though you kind of get the gist of what's going on pretty early on with that combat.
Yeah, I got hours into it, but it wasn't.
Yeah. Maybe that would be towards the bottom because we're all more passionate about other things more. But I felt very strongly it absolutely needs to be.
Well, to me, it stands out as like a shoe-in to move over, which it obviously did. Yeah. But like where it ends up on the list now is
not a shoe-in to keep it the top. I see.
To me,
yeah.
I see. Okay.
Yeah, it's not the winner. Stupid Game Awards.
There you go.
That From Software bump, am I right, guys?
Yeah. Jeff Keighley always talking about FromSoft all the time.
So, sorry, Dan. I know you liked Spider-Man 2, of course, and things like Sea of Stars.
Yeah.
Those are weird ones to compare. But when you just think about your preferred combat, like what you would think of as like, man, the combat in that game, not necessarily the game overall game. Trying to separate story and other things from it.
Right.
Just the combat. Spider-Man 2, Sea of Stars, I'm trying to think of what else for you, because I know you've got Final Fantasy 16 above those. I'm trying to think of ones that maybe are behind that and how you would order some of those.
Yes, but so Sea of Stars is like more of a, it puts a smile on my face because of the like sort of nostalgic element that they're going for there.
Yeah.
But Spider-Man is putting a big smile on my face because that's just fun, dude. Like that game is just like you're just soaring through
like, one of the Spider-Man just like punch a dude 1,000 times, against the wall, and you're like, yeah, hell yeah, dude.
Where he does that move, when an enemy's up against the wall, and he's like kicking them like,
like Liu Kang bicycle kicks him. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah. So good.
It's just too good. That game.
I feel like Armored Core and Sea of Stars might be at the bottom. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm trying to separate the list a bit.
I'm really okay with like something like a Dragon being 10, just because I'm the only one who played it. Like I really am. Like I've said my piece on it. But like I feel like at some point like things have to give way as a joined list.
Yeah.
And since that has the least exposure, that like it being at 10 is like.
Was that your number? Like if you have a personal list, Kyle, is that top for you?
Oh yeah, but I don't think that matters.
Like, give me some, like, what are some ones that come out? Like, if you have a top, do you have a top 3? Like, what are some ones that are after that?
I would say, like Jedi Survivor is in the top 3, Final Fantasy 16 is in the top 3, and Like a Dragon is like would be third.
All right. Yeah, so there are definitely some shared. Of course, 16, Star Wars I know is shared at least for a few of us. So yeah, this probably goes somewhere in this bottom section along with these other two. Let's move these down.
Like Remnant would be around Armored Core since it's got a similar player
I think these are together in the bottom half somewhere, right?
Yeah.
By the way, I'm not trying to rank them. I'm just moving them. Okay. And maybe one of these two is with those in the bottom 5. So I'm looking at Final Fantasy 16, Hogwarts, Spider-Man 2, and Jedi Survivor as our likely up in the top 5, let alone maybe top 4, and then Starfield and Zelda are in the middle, based on our. I don't know. Kyle, you and I talked about Starfield. Jeff, you played some, but not a ton of Starfield.
Yeah, I at least know the shooting feels good. That's all I know.
Dan, you played some Starfield too.
I played like I think like 50 to 60 hours.
That's not some. That's
more than some. Yeah, that's called carrying the lead, Dan. Speak up, buddy.
Well, I guess I didn't. So I didn't get. Me. I like with some of these games. I'm just freaking meandering. So like I didn't get into like the power stuff too much from what I recall, or even at all. So I didn't dabble in those. Some of the guns felt good. Some of them, like I think some of the shotguns, it's like where's the punchiness with this? Like why does this feel like there's not a lot of punchiness with these shotguns? But
no, I had some as far as shotguns, like, but I would say I found more that weren't than were.
Okay.
But yeah, I found.
Gotta get the right ones. Really. There's some of those double barrels that I feel like my whole screen was shaking.
I used the double barrel and it was absolutely the best. And I put explosive ammo in them, and I'm telling you, it felt like I was the most powerful thing on earth.
As far as like overall, like what Bethesda has ever done with combat, this I would say this definitely feels the best. So
yeah. Sure.
So, yeah.
Dan, if you had to pick between Tears of the Kingdom combat or Starfield, which one would you pick personally?
I would pick Tears of the Kingdom.
What about you, Kyle? Which one would you pick between those two?
Pass.
Just immediately, not even a beat.
Yeah,
not even
pass.
a beat.
I don't want to talk about that. Yeah, no, I feel like
I have Starfield ranked above it, but as we've talked about it,
yeah, I feel like that's kind of how I feel too. Is that like originally going in, I probably had Starfield above it because there's very few games where you can bust up on a what was it called, a backpack, a rocket pack, and like pull out your shotgun and like just go to town on people. And since I have explosive like ammo, like flying so high up and just like raining down basically like explosive rounds on people was super cool. But Zelda's got like 1,000 different ways to approach 1,000 different situations. So it's like I don't know. There's an infinite approach to Zelda that like may not just be there with Starfield.
I agree. And as we've talked about it, and just kind of thinking back on my time, like it's funny how it's, at least visually in my head, I'm moving it up the list a little bit. Like, well, actually, I like it. I think now that I'm talking about it, I like it more than that one, which I had it ranked behind other ones.
Zelda's the year of like being sneaky. Like we were like, well, its music's kind of similar. I don't know if we're gonna have it on our top 10. And
that's the theme. That's the theme.
Sneaky Zelda.
You know what it is too? Like I'm also trying to be trying to like manage multiple points of view better. Like a lot of times it's easy for me to come and be like, guys, this should be on there. Anyone disagree? Like I'm trying to manage all these different points of view, so I'm trying to play it a little bit more like I don't know what the right word is. I'm trying to be tactful with being like, hey, I love Zelda, but it's okay if you guys didn't, and it doesn't have to be super high. But then the more we talk about it, the more I'm like, yeah, but it might be my favorite thing I've ever played. So if it's cool, can we keep it on there a little bit?
Like,
maybe?
no worries though. It's just like one of my favorites ever. No big deal.
Yeah, I think I'm slow playing it a little too much. So I'll try to be a little more forthright about it. I do think it should be based on what we're all saying, top 5. We haven't even talked about Hogwarts Legacy.
Right.
That's one of the things I loved about that game was the combat.
I did not expect a game with a Harry Potter setting to feel
because
good.
I think that's why it's rated. That's why at least collectively we're talking about it, appreciating it, possibly rating it so high. It's because it's like we didn't expect that element to be that good at all.
And like, I don't. And
exploring will be cool, maybe, you know. But the combat is so good.
It's so good.
I'm really not trying to be a hater, but I thought the wand fights in the movies like sucked. I just didn't like
them.
Fair. You know, I don't think they were exciting, but like that was the opposite of what I felt here. Like I felt so incredibly opposite, and it was spectacle, and there was a lot of it wasn't two people like shooting beams at each other, you know, like it was a lot more going on than that. And like I just color me surprised, you know, that
there's like dodging and essentially parrying, and there's this like this
great parrying. Yeah,
it's almost like third person. We talked about Immortals being magic
moves.
shooting. This is like third person magic shooting in a way.
And
you're quickly changing out your weapon with your different
so many
types.
spells. You end up getting 4 little whatever you call those things, like
shortcuts.
4 sets of 4 4 sets of 4 spells basically, and you're just like alternating constantly.
Swap,
especially when you keep running into trolls. You're like, god dang it, another freaking big ass troll, and now there's 2 of them, and you're like
well, there were things like where like you had to like bait like a missed enemy through like a gateway, and then it became solid so you could hit it, and like just so many clever like great ideas and stuff like that.
The combo stuff is unbelievable too, like just the whole Accio, the enemy, and then you're just like hitting the crap out of them with a basic spell or whatever. Even the basic spell feels fun.
The combos I didn't expect either, where it was like, if you do this, raise them up in the air, then hit them, and then slam them on the ground, you're going to do bonus damage. Like it was rewarding you for being creative and making it look cool. Yeah, man. There's not many games that have made me continue to want to engage enemies. There's so many games where I'm like, all right, I get this combat. This is fun. Let me advance to the end of the game here. Let me get to the end.
Right.
This one, I just wanted to keep engaging with enemies. I thought it was so fun. And the only other game in recent memory that made me want to try all elements of its combat, outside of stuff like Elden Ring, but I think the God of War Ragnarok, when they introduced like the spear weapon, and I just wanted to try all of that, and I wanted to do all the axe stuff. Like, I want to do all of it. This kind of gave me that same feeling where once I mastered not only each individual style of playing, then if I started to mix and match, like Jeff's talking about, when you start swapping mid-combat and then swap, like that felt so good. They did a really good job.
And that's an important ingredient to think about, because we were talking about like not meeting the game where its mechanics are, and that's kind of on us. But it's also the game's duty to make us want to try those things.
Yeah,
you know?
100%.
And I think that Hogwarts does that in a way where I just got a new spell. I gotta know what it does. You know what I mean? And I have to know, you know.
And then they introduced like the, what are they called? The super evil spells. What do they call
those?
The
dark arts.
The dark arts. When they introduce those spells, then it gets real crazy, because you don't have to use them. You don't have to learn them. You can be a good boy if you want to.
Unforgivable curses. That's what they are.
The unforgivable. Thank you. Yeah.
The ones where you're raising the dead and like crap like that. Oh my god, dude! I fully embrace that.
Or like the torture one, where it's essentially like you have they're now stunned. It's kind of like stunning them, and it's like lowering their health, but they can't move. And of course, there's the death curse, where it doesn't work on everybody. They have to be weakened to a certain point in some cases. But
I think they patched it to the point where you can't use it on bosses anymore.
Yeah, people were really.
There were like at least 3 bosses I used it on. As soon as they showed up, I was like, "And you're dead." And like
that makes sense.
Just went to the freaking like cinematic right after that. It was so funny.
It cut you in a go-kart on the street, like a dragon.
Sure.
You're like, how did I get here? Just what? So okay, I'm glad to hear that I'm not alone in that. Like how good that combat is. To me, it's right up there with it was right up there alongside with Jedi Survivor. I've got Spider-Man 2 up pretty high as well. I had it right alongside Lies of P.
Yeah.
And there's not a ton more to say about Spider-Man 2. You guys have already mentioned it, like how good it feels to be Spider-Man, all the combos, the abilities that you unlock with Peter and Miles together, Peter and Miles separately, and then you get brand new suit, which brings in a whole new thing of moves, but then the story changes, so you don't have those, but then the story changes, so then you do again. So like it's really cool. Really
I'll also say that this type of combat is bar none my favorite type of combat in any game ever. So I mean that as like
the
stuff
Arkham
like this
style.
and Batman and what's the Lord of the Rings game? Shadows of Mordor.
Yeah.
Those like parry, not parry heavy, but combo heavy.
Yes.
Maybe parry heavy. Yeah, the windows
but
are really.
It starts to change.
Well, there certainly is a parry now in Spider-Man 2. There wasn't before.
But what I mean by that is like when someone's hitting you, you hit triangle.
Yeah, you get an alert over your head or something like that.
Get an alert over your head. Yeah. I know some people have hard feelings about that, but like that's
dodging,
literally
parrying,
my favorite
so on and so forth.
Yeah.
I'm with you though, Kyle, because like when you're Spider-Man, when you're Batman, and when you're like this super powered whatever you are in the Mordor games, which is awesome. When you've got those special abilities, you want it to show on the screen, and when you're in combat, you don't want to keep failing and feeling like an idiot. So I like that they give those.
It's like Dark Souls for idiots. Yeah, I like it.
I love that style.
Also, the fact that there's two different, you're literally switching between two different Spider-Men who have unique abilities and so on and so forth. You know, so
very different styles.
I know this isn't traversal category, but the wingsuit is just tops, dude.
Yes.
Really
oh my god.
Yeah.
It's the best.
Well, when you wingsuit into combat and like drop kick somebody, it's pretty awesome.
That's amazing. Yes.
Yeah. No, I agree. All right. So I think we've at least a little bit talked about. Oh, we didn't talk about Jedi Survivor time. We talked about a little bit where there's all these different styles of combat. They introduce a couple new stances. Again, you guys should know that there's slight spoilers if you haven't played these games. We're not going to spoil story, but some gameplay elements. So sorry, we're gonna.
Yeah, I feel like the gameplay elements are fully like spoilable, without people going, "You can do what with a blaster?" Like
So they introduced a few new. The first game, Fallen Order, had some cool stances. They did a good job with it. I still love that game. It's one of my favorites the year that it came out. I stand by it. That being said, this improves it in every way. It adds tons more in terms of exploration, and I think the story is way better. I think everything about it is improved. And that includes the stances, which now include my two favorites is the blaster stance, where you now have a gun in one hand.
That is correct.
And the one-handed saber. It's so fun.
So uncivilized, but so good.
It's so uncivilized, but it's so good. And it adds these new combos and these new finishers, and the way that you handle everything just looks different. Like all of a sudden, Cal's just looking like a different type of fighter on the screen, and I love that. That's what made it feel so different. And then you bring in this the cross guard stance, which was like this heavy thing. Now you've got two-handed, and you've got the Kylo Ren style cross guards, and you're doing these gigantic, super strong
longer
swings.
Blade. Yeah,
it's a longer blade, and but each swing means more, because if you miss, you're going to get hurt probably. So like it's a lot of risk reward, but if you land some of these hits, they're going to die real fast. So I like that. I like all the options, man. I like switching between these different things.
Well,
that's not to mention all the other stances, which are great too.
Well, and as a kid, and I think every boy on earth has picked up a wrapping tube and use it as a lightsaber or whatever, but like this is the best version of lightsaber combat ever in all of games. Period. Might be the best sword combat of all games, period. Like it's just it is so cool to watch those like big moments in duels with certain characters, and pairing at the right time, and just knowing when to defend and when to be on the offensive and when to throw in a force power and stuff like that. Like what a dance, man. What a dance of like cool action going on in this game.
One of the coolest feelings of like even early in the game, doing force pull and stabbing them as they get to you.
Yeah, or letting them hang in the air and then throwing your saber at them. It's pretty nice, man.
He is dancing on. He's flirting with the dark side in this game.
A little bit.
We've all wanted to be Spider-Man and like beat people up, and I feel like that. Like you've always wanted to be a Jedi and like slice people up. Like
sure,
absolutely
makes sense.
What a year for property games.
Yeah,
I know.
The IPs. We just talked about 3 massive IPs that there's video game versions of where they nail the combat.
Yeah.
Hogwarts, Spider-Man.
Remember when this genre used to suck, guys? Like licensed.
Yeah, it used to be like, oh my god.
And they're making another bad Spider-Man game. Great, yeah. All
right, guys. So I believe we've got Armored Core 6 and Sea of Stars at 10 and 9. based on how we're talking about it. I think Like a Dragon and Remnant were also in that somewhere in that range, 10 or 8 and 7 with Starfield sitting at 6.
Starfield feels like 6, yeah, for sure.
Based on our conversation, I think that's how we were landing.
Yeah. And again, I'm happy with Sea of Stars being above stuff like Remnant and Like a Dragon, just because more of us have played it. But like, you know,
Jeff and Dan,
I have like too many darlings on this list that I don't feel good about. So like,
that just means you're making some good cases on stuff.
I appreciate that. All right, that's good.
Well, and you're not wrong about Remnant too. That one's just undeniably great combat.
Jeff,
did you watch that video with the Q boss?
Yeah, that fight looks insane, dude. I can't believe there's 3 of you doing that sometimes. That's crazy.
So, Jeff, for our list, would you have Sea of Stars below Remnant 2, though, based on what we've all said about it?
Yeah.
Okay. But maybe Like a Dragon goes at 9.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, Like a Dragon.
Maybe it's.
I mean, I liked it. Obviously, I didn't get very far in it, so I didn't see the rocket shoes.
You didn't even get rocket shoes, Jeff.
You get rocket shoes, bro.
It might be the only new thing about this game.
Rocket shoes.
Right, so I think these are
I
think this is 5 through 10 here with Zelda at 5, Starfield, Remnant, Sea of Stars.
Okay.
Like a Dragon.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, there's been good things said about all these games. We haven't in this round talked about Final Fantasy 16's combat yet too much. So feel free to add in anything else, because there's great things said about Hogwarts, Spider-Man 2, Jedi Survivor. 16 we talked about a little bit, how you can use all the different combos of powers and stuff, but feel free to add on to that. What else with 16 makes it?
I feel like the spectacle has to be brought up of the combat.
Oh yeah, for sure.
What I mean by that is like the boss fights. Turning into a giant.
Because it's not just
the kaiju fight.
It's not just about Clive doing his thing. It's about also the icons.
Yeah.
And just like you said, the spectacle of, and I mean, I don't know, this may seem extreme, but like, I mean, there's like a couple of boss fights in this game that are like probably the coolest boss fights I've ever experienced in my entire life. Like, not even just because it's Final Fantasy, just, you know, like
I'll have some moments in this game that are rent free in my brain, and especially because, you know, like the combat, especially with the icons, will just change. Like now it's a shoot 'em up, or now it's a you know, a brawler, or now it's a fighting game, or whatever. Like just the amount of variety that came about with the combat was pretty interesting.
And now it's an arcade shooter. Are we in space?
Yeah, exactly. yeah.
Like that fight in particular, it's like I mean,
that was so. Oh my god, dude! I could not believe. I think that whole fight was like what, like
Dragon Ball Z. They keep getting
Dragon Ball Z,
dude. And it's Bahamut, which is like my favorite. He's basically my he's probably my favorite summon in the series. So it's like I was so spoiled in that fight. Like I couldn't even fathom.
Who was the Bahamut icon? What character was Bahamut again?
That was the Prince guy.
Oh, it was the Prince. Okay.
Yeah.
Prince. I almost made
Prince blonde-haired dude.
Prince Skychaser. Yeah, he's Prince.
Prince Pretty Boy.
I almost said that, but okay.
Yeah. Right. I can't remember names. I feel stupid.
Yeah, same.
Right,
he is my favorite character in the game, though. I think so.
Yeah.
I can't remember him. Yeah.
So I'll tell you, one of the things that could make this a little simpler here at the end. I don't think there's much negative to say about any of these outside of like personal preference. And I know, Dan, you didn't play Jedi Survivor.
Yeah, or Hogwarts. Yeah, so I'm kind of stuck with half and half here.
You own them both, right? We're at least past that threshold. Finally. Okay, good.
Yeah.
So at least you are going to play them. That's what I'm most excited for. Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right, so you guys, these are the 4, and we're going to rank them. I'm actually going to stop sharing my screen while we rank them, and then we'll bring it back up with the final score. So we got 16, Hogwarts, Spider-Man 2, and Jedi Survivor. So you're going to give 1 through 4 ranking on these. So you get 4 points on each. So I'm going to pause sharing my screen real quick. There we go. And then, so I'm going to rank them here first, and then I'll add your guys' points to them as you put them together. I'm trying to be consistent with my list I made beforehand, but it is hard. As we talk about it, my mind starts to go like, ooh, do I like that one more? I have problems.
All over the place.
I'm trying to be consistent. Can be tough. All right. Okay.
It's Jedi, Marvel, Hogwarts, and what? How did I already forget this?
Final Fantasy
Marvel,
16.
Hogwarts, and Thank you.
Final Fantasy. Yeah.
All right. So Jeff, do you have your order? You can just give me ranking number 1 through 4.
Oh, good Lord.
If you don't have them yet, you can go. Dan, you've only got 2, so maybe yours is easier. How do you rank?
Yeah. So
these?
starting with number 1 as my favorite, you mean?
Yeah.
Okay. So it would be 16, Spider-Man, and then I'll say Star Wars just because I at least did play the first one. So I at least kind of have some frame of reference. So I guess that would slightly edge out Hogwarts. So then Star Wars and then Hogwarts.
Okay. Kyle, how would you rank these?
My number 1 would be Final Fantasy. I'm sorry. My number 1 would be Jedi. Excuse me. My number 2 is Final Fantasy. My number 3 is Marvel, Spider-Man, and my number 4 is Hogwarts.
All right, Jeff, how do you rank these?
You ready for a wrench?
I'm ready for a wrench.
My number 1 is Spider-Man 2.
Nice.
My number 2 is Hogwarts. My number 3 is that repetitive ass stupid bull crap Final Fantasy 16.
You heard it here first, everybody.
Number 4 is Jedi Survivor. That's definitely not my Final Fantasy 16 is definitely not my game of the year. I don't, not to tip my hand or anything. It's definitely not. Definitely not.
Sure.
Definitely not.
Are you winking? I'm not looking at your screen right now. Are you winking? What's happening?
I don't know how to wink, so just.
Okay. All right.
I knew this category was coming up, so I wore my Yoda shirt because I'm representing Jedi today.
All right, guys, we've got a tie for number 1.
Damn it.
All right, so we're gonna go ahead and put Hogwarts Legacy at number 4 with 8 points.
Yeah.
We're gonna put Final Fantasy 16 at number 3 with
what
10
a piece
points.
of garbage game. No, I'm just kidding.
I think because it's a tie, like Marvel has to be at number 1 because we all at least played that one, right?
Yep. Yeah, that's a good call.
We all played it, and it's rated higher on OpenCritic. So both, whatever tiebreaker approach we want to use, that's got to be our number 1, and then Survivor is a number 2. So it's got a higher OpenCritic rating, and all 4 of us picked it.
Can't believe Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl 2 didn't get above it though. We really messed up on that.
Yeah.
Clearly a better game.
Also, we probably could have saved a lot of time just by saying, "Hey, which of these games do you get to fight as Venom?"
Yeah.
Okay. Spider-Man 2 wins.
Sure. Yeah.
Which one has that one random mission where you're like Venom? That's
remember when he said, "I am Venom"? Like it's like, yeah.
And I know I didn't say mine out loud. My pick is I've got Jedi Survivor at number 1. Yeah. I've got Hogwarts Legacy at number 2, Spider-Man 2 at number 3, and Final Fantasy 16 number 4. And it's funny. It's like all of these have just phenomenal combat experiences. Like I loved fighting in all these games. It's just personal preference at this point.
Right. Splitting hairs for sure.
It's definitely
really are looking at like those 4 are probably my top 4 games of the year because I'm not a Zelda guy. I don't do any FromSoft difficult whatever games. So like you're probably looking at Jeff's top. Well, not
there's
that
someone
order,
out there who's going, "You played Jedi though, Jeff. That's a dark."
Even though there's difficulty sliders, so I think
there
I'm
are
okay.
big time. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think there is like a true FromSoft game that's fighting for it this year. I mean, there's gonna be some Armored
I just double checked. It is these exact 4 games. It's just not in that order. Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah.
I'm so predictable.
They're good video games, guys. They're pretty good. All right, guys. Here's our top 10 best combat in 2023. Starting at number 10, we have Armored Core 6. At number 9 is Like a Dragon Gaiden. Number 8 is Sea of Stars. Number 7 is Remnant 2. Number 6 is Starfield. Number 5 is Tears of the Kingdom. 4 is Hogwarts Legacy. 3 is Final Fantasy 16. 2 is Jedi Survivor. And number 1 is Spider-Man 2. Good combat. There's a lot of good combat in here.
Oh my gosh, yeah. And the stuff we cut is even incredible.
I know.
Good for you.
Oh, good for you.
Good for you.
There you go. So there's our favorite combat of the year as a combined list. I don't know that did anyone actually have Spider-Man 2 as their number 1?
That was me.
Jeff did. Okay.
Yeah. For combat, is that what you're asking?
Yes.
Yeah, for combat, not overall, but yeah.
I was only asking that because it's funny the way the math works out, because I think we have a lot of shared like second, third, and fourth place.
This is what when people are afraid that politics are going to split the vote. This is what they're afraid of. This is happening right here.
Yeah.
Of the Ross Perot winning the election.
Sure.
Oh man, we could have had
kids out there.
Could have had.
I think we've had a few of those. We'd have to look back at old Game of the Years and these discussions.
Wasn't Bob Dole a third party?
Bob Dole.
Republican, I think.
Bob Dole.
Oh, was it? Okay.
I think so.
Okay.
But I think we've had a few. Like I think Outer Worlds won, and the year that it came out, kind of in a similar way, because there was so many split decisions on.
Yeah, that was 2019. Right?
I was surprised, but I was like, Outer Worlds is winning this year with that. I love that game.
It's a great game.
It was the year of Jedi Fallen Order, and there were some other games.
Yeah,
but not everybody was in agreement on them. But we were all in agreement. Like,
Control,
really
I think
great,
Control
though,
was that.
Yeah, Control. Yeah.
There was a bunch of good games in 2019. It's just the way that the math kind of worked out at the end. Was like, is Outer Worlds our like? No one had it as their number one. I don't think.
So funny.
But it was everyone's like 2, 3, 4, and then everyone else had such divided lists outside of that.
Just like then, now I don't feel it doesn't feel bad. I'm like, yeah, Marvel, that makes sense.
Yeah, Spider-Man 2's
got fantastic fighting.
It's amazing.
Just like Outer Worlds is a fantastic RPG, so.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's just interesting that the way that it is definitely a Ross Perot situation. Kind of
I do think Jeff did come out winning though, so I'm gonna be extra mean next week. So
yeah, he got all his faves in there.
Yeah, he got all of his faves in. So.
I'm supposed
Get
to
ready for my Final Fantasy fanboy energy.
But yeah,
I'm saving that Final Fantasy fanboy energy for myself for overall game of the year. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
I think by the end of it, we're gonna be like, hey, remember all those cool things I said about this other? Can we just apply that? I liked it a lot.
Remember when I said that thing in episode 201? Yeah, just that about this. Yeah.
We've talked about surprises, and we'll wrap it up with this. We talked about surprises. What would be the 2024 surprise? Because Jeff, you broke new ground with like turn-based RPGs, especially like retro style turn-based RPGs. Didn't see that one coming at all.
You and me both.
This year, I'd love to see you really get into the Zelda games, and that'd be the.
That's not happening.
I just can't fathom someone not liking Zelda.
Ass.
I can't fathom.
I literally have never met anybody in my entire life.
I can't fathom that.
I've literally never.
Well,
never.
You said it yourself that some of the bones of that combat is can be applied to Dark Souls games. There you go. Boom. It's reason number
Dark Souls
one.
Way more punishing. Dark Souls.
No, you're right. You're right.
I think anything that rhymes with Dark Souls.
It's almost like too much.
Okay, good. I don't have to like it.
It's like almost like. Can you imagine? I don't know that I've ever talked about a game that gives me that much freedom, and been like, I love it so much. Zelda's almost like too much freedom. Like it's like I get overwhelmed.
I do understand that for sure.
It can feel that way. That's why I think some of their earlier entries, your Ocarina of Times, your Twilight Princess, those are like much more linear.
Right.
Progression that makes sense. It's not
so Breath of the Wild. Like they're open. Like Ocarina kind of feels like it's open, but there's a next thing to do.
Oh yeah.
Like, and you know what it is, and you go do that thing. Yeah.
Yeah, Breath of the Wild, and even more so, Tears of the Kingdom, probably tenfold more than Breath of the Wild. It just is like, go play in this world, and if you have a question, I think is either Dan or Kyle that you said in this episode too. Like, if you have a question, like, hey, can I do this in Zelda? The answer is probably yes. You could probably
always
do it.
Yes.
Probably.
You just have to.
Later ones,
Yeah.
Just gotta dream
you can attach a fiery wiener
Don't
to
let your dreams be dreams.
Yeah, there you go.
Do it.
That's the message. Hey, this was a fun one. This is a good one. Next week, let's see. Next week, we're going to dive into new things in old games. We're going to rank some DLC and remasters and remakes. That's when we finally get a chance to shout out some kind of older games that have come back up for multiple reasons across the industry. And then our favorite visuals. We'll rank those two lists. We'll also, I don't know if we'll rank this list. We might. We did last year, so we'll see. But we'll talk about our favorite performances in games. At the very least, we're going to highlight who are some of our personal favorites. If you guys really want, I'm okay either way with whether we rank it or not. But there's been so many great performances across video games this year. Yeah. We wanted to make sure we highlight those. And if you've got any old games you played, any backlog games. So it's not specifically games you've replayed. Like I know, Dan, on your stream, you did a lot of replaying, but maybe something like Xenogears, that was a backlog game for you. You never really got to it. You finally tackled it. I know I've got a couple of those. Like for me, Cyberpunk 2077.
Jeff better bring up Mafia. That's all I'm saying.
I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what you're talking about.
So we'll tackle those all next
I have
week.
At least like 7 backlog games.
No, you played a few this year. I'm like, it's getting to it. Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, thanks for sticking with us for these Game of the Year episodes. Our favorite time of year, to be honest. Like, I know it's a lot. Like, I'm tired at the end of these, but they're so fun. I love them.
But like, I don't know. I would stay up another hour if we had more stuff.
I think it's so fun. It's good
reckless, but yeah.
It is. And hey, the good news is I have been keeping an eye on like headlines and new games. There's nothing so far. Like there's maybe some like negative headlines about like jerks who used to lead companies who don't anymore. We don't want to talk about that anyway. There's no like, there's no meaningful.
They don't even matter anymore.
There's no meaningful fun storylines. I know you could. There's no meaningful fun storylines or new games that are out that are like worth taking. So this is a good time to chat about this stuff. So anyway, all right. Thank you guys. We'll see you next time. Bye.